Oh, no. And we're back for another episode of Blue Tiger Revenge. That's right. I'm comic book creator Tad Galusha, and with me, you see him, look at him. Face shaved, naked, smooth. Well, not smooth. Smooth like sandpaper. You
Yep.
love him. Some people, though, do hate him. Though he's not bearded anymore. That's right. The former king of beards. Maybe.
No. It's not former. It's not former.
Okay. The exiled king of beards, soon to reclaim the throne, soon to return to his kingdom of power. Brian Bales. How's it going, Big Brian?
It's going good, man. It's going good.
We got a special guest today. It's a big
We
day.
do. I'm pretty excited about it. It's been a minute. So
I know,
it'll
right?
It'll be good to have someone back in the Tiger Den.
Yeah, I feel like it's time. We've smoothed things out. We've done what? Well, this will be number 5 art pieces.
I think so, yeah.
Or arts, which is sketches. Yeah, I think it's definitely time that we start getting back on that gravy train that is the in-studio guest.
Absolutely.
Digital in studio, unfortunately.
For now.
One day.
Listen, one day, if I keep playing the Powerball, maybe I'll win the $1 billion, and then I'll build us a studio and just fly you and the guests in every time we record.
Dude, Spotify, man. Get that Spotify $100 million deal. We're good to go. It's fine.
That's true. I'm still waiting for it.
Yeah, I hear you. Dude, there was some big... Before our guest comes in, because we got a few minutes.
Okay.
Big fucking news, dude.
Okay.
Big news. You're not going to give a shit about it, but...
Probably not.
This is probably the biggest dinosaur news to hit in 20 years, 30 years. So one of the most contested, most debated things in North American paleontology is the existence of an animal called Nanotyrannus. And Nanotyrannus was, I think Nanotyrannus. Dude, if the Tyrannosaurus Rex is the grizzly bear of the late Cretaceous, then this would be the wolf. And the debate has been, are these young tyrannosaurs that they're finding, or like juvenile tyrannosaurs, or is this like a mid-sized predator that's sharing the ecosystem with Tyrannosaurus Rex? And for the most part, everyone was like, at this point, like the genus was dead. There's like no fucking way. And then there was this beautiful fossil. It was they basically thought it was a juvenile Tyrannosaurus fighting a Triceratops. They died. And so they got a full skeleton of this juvenile Tyrannosaur.
Wait.
Well, back up.
Because haters and people who think dinosaurs aren't real will tell you that they've never found a full, complete skeleton of a dinosaur before.
Fucking idiots. Okay? We have mummified dinosaurs. We have skin impressions. We've got eggs. We've got everything. Like, I don't have time for those people, man. They also think the world is flat.
For argument's sake here.
Oh, God.
For argument's sake. I mean, dinosaurs, they kind of first got discovered in the 1800s, probably.
Well, it depends. Where do you think the Legend of Dragons came?
Right. Hold on. Right around the time museums started needing new exhibit materials.
Yep, it's a Smithsonian conspiracy. You got it.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's where all the money's at. That's where all the money's at.
Yeah.
Is a conspiracy.
Technology.
That's right.
Don't you think it's just Hollywood trying to do something for PR for every Jurassic Park movie that comes out?
My heart is hurting.
I'm rage baiting you so hard right now.
Also, I'm already raging enough. I watched the latest Jurassic Park. We don't need to... Let's just say dinosaur... to quote Ian Malcolm in the first time. Hello, dinosaurs? You do have dinosaurs in your dinosaur park? Dinosaur? I don't think there's any dinosaurs in the actual movie, but whatever. Anyways, may I continue?
You can. Yes.
They have so it went into a private collection, this amazing one of a kind, and it never got reviewed. So they excavated in 2006. It's been in ownership limbo for whatever, almost 20 years. And then finally scientists some paleontologists got to look at it and study it. And they do cross sections of bones now, right? So they can see the growth patterns, essentially, kind of like rings on a tree. I guess that'd be the easiest way. And they're like, oh no, this is a full size fucking adult. This is a completely different species. And so this species overnight went from being no, it's bullshit, doesn't exist, to nail in the coffin, 100%, Nanotyrannus is here to stay. Tad, you got to rewrite all of Cretaceous 2, you dumb idiot. Way to go. Which is true. Now I have to go back because it just completely changes everything. It's a big deal. I mean, if you're not a science nerd, who cares, right? But I'm not even a science nerd. I like dinosaurs. But it'd be like if we just discovered wolves existed. They weren't baby fucking grizzly bears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of equivalent. So it's huge if you think about it. You think about Yellowstone and the wolves, the impact they had on Yellowstone. It's the same thing for the Hell Creek Formation. And they actually think there's two species of Nanotyrannus. There's an upper tier and then a lower tier. I don't know. But it's a real interesting animal. The forelimbs, the forearms are the same as a T-Rex, right? The little two fingers.
Yeah.
But even though the animal is maybe 1,500 pounds, its forearms are the same size as a T-Rex is, maybe even a little bit bigger. And it's just it's a pretty small animal. So think of basically a mini T-Rex that can run around 30 miles an hour and has two arms it has four giant just fucking meat hooks hanging down off its chest. So this thing, you're fucked. You're so fucked. This thing's running down your Subaru, ripping the door off and tearing your ass out of it. You're so screwed.
That's awesome.
It's
really cool.
It is cool. I guess I should probably describe it in terms that make it cool. It can run 30 miles an hour. It weighs around probably a little over 1,000 pounds, and it's got fucking meat cleavers and T-Rex mandibles on its face. It's such a cool super predator that's pint-sized super predator. I know. I'm super stoked about it.
Pint size is 1,000 pounds. That's crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. And then I guess there's a bunch of other data that's come out. T-Rex is if you thought it was big before, it probably was a lot bigger. It's cruising around 11 tons.
Jesus.
Fuck that, man.
Yeah.
Strongest bite force, binocular vision, night, can see in the dark, can probably see you from 3.5 miles away. Terrifying. And then you bring this little asshole into it. Dude, your ass isn't lasting more than 10 minutes in upper Cretaceous, or is it upper Cretaceous?
I don't know.
Late Cretaceous. We'll just say late Cretaceous because the brain fog is still there. But you're not. Yeah, man. If you're in Montana 66,000 or 66 million years ago, you're screwed. You're done. You're done. That was a big. Any for our guests? Looks like our guests are almost ready. Yeah. Any big news?
Well, I do have. I see something that's really cool, and it's behind you, and it looks like a milk carton and a couple of tigers on a pillow. And can we just
you want to check those out?
Just talk about those for a second and how fancy? Look at that. I mean, look at that pillow. Look at that.
Pretty good quality.
Yeah. Where can folks get stuff like that?
Well, I'll tell you, but you got to promise that you're not going to tell everybody.
Okay.
It's just for the tiger. Between you and me.
Yeah.
It's at our TeePublic store. We have pillows.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll be honest. When the Dr. Wife has had enough of my shenanigans, he's coming real handy. Real handy. Yeah, super comfy.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go. Well, it's on our TeePublic. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's on our TeePublic. So it's like teepublic.com. You type in Blue Tiger and it pops up.
Yeah, apparently.
That's
Or
crazy.
dude, you can just click the link in the notes or the bio.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess it just depends where you're getting your Blue Tiger milk from.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, I have seen that there's a link to it in the YouTube description and in the Substack description. So that's pretty.
Maybe it's flashing across the bottom of the screen right there.
It's not.
Lazy made me look like an idiot. Click here, right here, everybody. Hey.
Nope, it's not there. It's not there.
Right. Well, this has been one educational intro.
Yep.
You're just like, yeah, great, cool, dinosaurs. Who gives a shit?
No, I like dinosaurs, man. Dinosaurs are cool.
Yeah.
I've got a copy of Cretaceous behind me. So
you did take it to the museum that you just criticized, the Smithsonian.
I did, and it was awesome.
You know what? That's one of my favorite photos anyone's ever sent me with the book.
Yeah, you goddamn right. I also have about 50 copies of Cretaceous behind me as well.
Oh yeah, for Emerald City next year. Come on, we got to be prepared.
Yeah.
The question is, will I have that first chapter of Volume 2 done? No, I won't.
Probably not.
I'm working on.
The question is, will we have issue 1 of Operation Blue done?
Possibly.
I like that. I
keep leaning down, like
I know.
Like, oh, and it just looks weird.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. That just means it's time to bring our guest in.
It's time to bring the guest. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Oh man, and we're here. We're back in the Tiger Den. It's been a long time, but we got a guest. That's right. We did it. We got another guest. It's been a hot minute. We got editor, writer, all around good dude, David Wielgosz. How's it going, man?
How's it going?
What's up, guys? So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Stoked.
Yeah. It's as you saw in the intro, we used to do a lot of guests, and then we just kind of broke away from it for a bit, just because I don't know. I feel like with everything kind of going on, man, people just it's like the podcast and stuff kind of took a big dip in viewership.
At least ours did.
Yeah, at least, and then it was really hard. Like I think people just haven't had the time, or just kind of like burned out on podcasts. So like, it's hard to get guests these days, at least for us, anyways.
I think post-pandemic, people are also very plan resistant, right? Like we're all kind of like, we were all very regimented for a while, and now it's like every day should be an adventure. Don't give me stuff to do. You know? I can't get people to eat lunch with me. Let alone like do something normal like we used to do all the time. So I get it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to fix the guest problem.
Well, thanks again. I mean, you and I know each other fairly well because we've been. Well, we can't go into details, but we've been working together for the last few months on a super secret big project.
We're chipping away at something I'm very excited about, and we first talked to each other, I think 6 months ago, and we had like an hour-long conversation, and it went by very quickly, which is good. Like I find that like if a conversation goes by fast, the person is cool. If a conversation feels like it's taking forever, like we should never talk again. And I was so relieved. Like 90 minutes went by like clockwork. I was like, oh man, me and the student are gonna get along. Like, thank God,
I felt the exact same way. I mean, because you just never know, and sometimes when you collaborate with people, I don't know, they can be the most talented individual in the world. You just don't click.
Yeah, I think that obviously we work in comics, right? And we like nerdy stuff. So like there's a stereotype that people are like antisocial or like not very good speakers. And I find overall, like most of the folks I've worked with are like very personable, very fun to talk to. And the only time people don't want to talk usually is when they're international and they're worried about their English, which is 9 times out of 10 way better than my English is usually. So like, I love talking to people, but yeah, like once in a blue moon, you talk to somebody and you're like, I feel like I just got off Mars. I don't know what happened and why it took
We-
that long.
Yeah,
we've had that a few times for sure.
yeah. We've had a couple episodes where, like, chatting with the would-be guest, was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we get them on the show, and it's just like, okay, what is happening? Like, this person does not want to talk at all, you know. But enough of this semantics. Okay, so you were a longtime editor, very well known, very well established in the industry. When I mention to folks that I'm working with you, people are always like, "Oh shit, that's awesome! That's a great." And you know what people always mention?
What's that?
That Man Bat series you wrote.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear. Yeah, I did a
So
Man Bat
good.
series in 2021 with artist Sumit Kumar. I hope I'm saying his name right. We obviously mostly emailed. His name is either pronounced Sumit or Sumit. I think it's Sumit, but I hope he corrects me if I'm horribly mistaken. Great guy, great artist.
Oh, I mean, you made Man Bat. I mean, I think we all love Man Bat from, like,
The animated series.
Yeah, and he only had a couple episodes, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like the episodes, or the because you when we started working together, the team so graciously sent me PDFs of the series, and I'm not a big, like, mainstream guy, so it was so wonderful. It was just nice to see a character like that actually, I don't know, feel like palatable and have depth and be interesting rather than just like kind of like monster of the week type scenario. You know what I mean?
100%. And I mean, that was very much the goal. Like, I mostly experienced Man Bat through the animated series. Like, I'm 33, so I was literally born. I was born the month Batman animated series started. So that show is omnipresent in my life. And like, most of my generation will tell you, like, we don't make comics if it's not for Batman the animated series, X-Men the animated series. Like, those shows got us to know comics existed, as like comics were going exclusively into specialty stores and out of like toy stores and newsstands and et cetera, et cetera. So Batman was a huge influence. And, you know, I worked in the Batman office as an editor for 7 or 8 years up until that point. And I don't even think I'd ever done anything in Man Bat, maybe a short story. So when they were like, oh, we're doing Man Bat, I was like, oh, cool, the one I know the least. So I had to really dig in and figure it out, which is a good challenge. And, you know, the industry doesn't do many miniseries anymore about like small characters like that or villains. So I'm really grateful I got to do it. And that, you know, whenever people read it, and they could be being polite, like you could just be a liar, but I suspect you're not. They're usually like, dude, that was way better than I expected. I didn't think a Man Bat book could be that cool. And I'm very, very grateful for it. And the comic keeps doing well for me at shows, and people keep coming up to me about it. So I'm super proud of it. And perhaps one day James Gunn will use the character in Creature Commandos, and they will reprint the book as a hardcover or something.
There you go.
I dream.
I'm gonna have to go track this book down because I have not read it, but big Man Bat guy here. So
what a piece of shit.
Well, that's nothing new.
So the book, I will say, the book might be out of print. So if you can't find it, you email me and we'll get one in the mail for you.
My man.
There we go. Look, you know, I feel like that was the whole con right here. You should buy. You're just conning, just trying to get free. But this is what he does. You know what's funny is guests will send him stuff, and then I'm just left in the lurch.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
I'll send you stuff too. What do you want? I can give you a comic. I have written a comic. I haven't written. Whatever you want, Tad.
Okay. All right. Deal. We'll talk biz after. I just want to feel love. That's all. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
You mentioned, obviously, so we got to talk, because I know you primarily as a writer.
Yeah.
But you've been an editor in the industry for, like, you're a well-recognized name. You're a mainstay, and like, you're editing, which I guess I can say you're editing the Casey Jones series right now, which I
loved it. I've read the
they've
first
gotten to do
issue.
a little something for it, thanks to you.
Yeah.
And I just want to, like, how did you come into editing? Because I think editing is one of those things that, you know, everybody talks about, like, the artist writer's journey, but editors are a crucial component to the comic industry. Without them, the magic essentially doesn't happen. So, like, how did give us your origin story? How did you get into that?
100%. And we're going to name drop a lot of editors so they give us work after this. So that's my personal con for this episode.
Perfect.
But
I
grew up a huge comic book reader, obviously. I started reading comics monthly in like the very early 2000s when Marvel and DC really started kind of ramping up post the 90s speculator boom, post the Marvel bankruptcy, and post like Joe Quesada taking over the editorial direction of Marvel, Dan DiDio taking over the editorial direction of DC. And I was just like a Wednesday warrior from middle school through high school. You, like we talked about when we first met, Ted, you were a Kubert school guy, and I went to school only a Jersey Transit train stop away in Madison, New Jersey at Fairleigh Dickinson University, which I went to because they had a cool creative writing program, and I always wanted to be a writer. But also, the New Jersey Transit train on that line took you right into Manhattan, and I really wanted to get internships. And I ended up getting internships at Marvel and DC first and then Marvel, but both ended up helping me in the long run. And I just wanted to get internships because I heard a lot of people who I liked and respected got their start in comics, like getting internships, even if they didn't end up being editors, like, you know, they ended up being writers or artists, stuff like that. So I was an intern at DC. I made a pretty good impression, and then I interned at Marvel. And then the last year I was in school was when DC announced that they were leaving their New York office behind and going to LA. So it's weird because now it was a lot of editors who are my age now, like folks in their early 30s who were like, hey man, like I'm not leaving New York. So they, rightly so, they left and they were like, we need like a skeleton crew to help us help work on these books with the editors who are going to go to Los Angeles. So they called a bunch of us who had been interns over the last couple of years because we had some editorial experience, and they were like, hey, are you out of college and alive and not in jail? Do you want like a job for a year in New York? And I was literally working at like I just graduated 2 weeks before I got this phone call. I was working at a Sears at the Holyoke Mall in Massachusetts, and I was having a pretty good time. And I was like, this is going to work out for me. I'll figure out how to make comics, even though like I don't have any job prospects and I'm at the mall. And, you know, I was very delusional. I was like, this is going to work out somehow. And thankfully, 2 weeks into me working again, like my friend Brittany Holzer, who at the time was the assistant to the editor-in-chief, was like, do you want to interview for a temporary job as the Batman assistant editor? And I looked at myself in my Sears uniform and I said, I think this is the right move. Yes, I will take the train into Manhattan and interview for this job. And then I got the job. I temped for a year. And then at the end of that year, when they were going to LA, they were like, do you want to come with us? Do you want the job full time? You have to move to LA. And I was 21 and I was like, I'm 21 years old. It sounds like the adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I was an editor there I didn't quite make it 10 years. I made it 9 years before I went freelance and started editing and writing, you know, at the same time. But I had a really, really good run over there working with a lot of incredible people and a lot of incredible creators, and really helped me become the creative person I am today.
Okay.
Oh man, that's awesome. DC, I hope you're listening to this.
Sorry to interrupt the interview, but I don't know. You guys know it's Game 7 of the World Series right now.
Yeah, what's the update?
Ninth. Dodgers just tied it up on a home run. 4-4.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna throw that out there real quick. So if you guys what's that?
Are they in Canada or are they in LA tonight? I don't know. And I live in
Toronto.
Okay, they're in Toronto.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. But
so where are you now, David? You're in LA now?
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah, I've lived in Los Angeles for 10 going on 11 years now. I took a break during the pandemic and moved back home with my folks, so I didn't go stir crazy. But yeah, I've been here for 10, 11 years with a rough interruption.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I just had a question. You talking about your internship. What does an internship look like if you're working for those comic offices? Because, you know, when people think of internships, they think of, you know, I've seen a lot of like TV shows and law TV shows where they're like bringing the coffee and doing those types of filing the paperwork. What does an internship at DC and Marvel look like?
Thankfully, there was no coffee because I don't know how to make coffee. So that would have been real bad for me. But yeah, a lot of paperwork. I mean, at DC, it was a lot of making copies, collecting reference for people. Like if artists were drawing a character or a book, like I'd get a list and they'd be like, could you like find the most recent reference for Batgirl, the Batmobile, this motorcycle, Commissioner Gordon, so we can send it to the artist. I was also like, I'd also review a lot of collected editions before they would get reprinted. So they'd give you a binder with a printout of a book, like let's say like the 10th printing of Why the Last Man Volume 1 or Preacher or Dark Knight Returns, and be like, just compare this against the last version of the book and make sure it's correct and there's no strange mistakes or strange paginations. I think you've probably seen articles on comic book websites where it's like, oh, this book got delayed because it accidentally printed upside down. Like, mostly making sure that that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
Okay.
And at Marvel, like at DC, I was me and another guy, and we were like the interns for the whole editorial, the whole DCU editorial group. At Marvel, I was just the intern for the X-Men office. So I was much more pointed just doing like X-Men stuff, like writing recaps, getting reference, reminding people of stuff, helping keep a calendar, that kind of stuff, like very administrative. And like on occasion, they would be like, they would try to test your creativity by being like, what do you think about this page? Or what note would you give about these colors? Or, hey, like, why don't you read this script and we'll just talk about it like as practice and like see what your opinions are. So as an intern and as an assistant editor, you're mostly doing administrative work, but like as you prove you can do the administrative work, which is the lion's share of what the work in the comic book industry is, they start to give you creative work and they're like, okay, I see what your deal is. I see how you're creative. My friend Andrea Shea just posted a great thing about this on Blue Sky the other day where she was like, an assistant editor job is 80% administrative, 20% creative. An associate editor job is 80% administrative, 50% creative. And an editor job is 80% administrative, 80% creative. So,
oh wow,
you know,
okay.
I hope people know what metaphors are and they're not like, that math doesn't work. But yeah, there's a lot of bureaucratic and administrative work that's done in comics and often done by the interns and assistant editors.
Sure. So
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
I got a question.
Sure.
Since we're on the topic, sometimes, I mean, you probably get this all the time, but like when I have to go to conventions, I get hit by young creators like, what should I do to work if I want to work for, you know, Ninja Turtles or, you know, I want to work on Superman or something. And I always give them like, you know, I'll just draw, just make sure you can tell the story. But what is it that like editors look for, you feel, especially nowadays? Like, what is it, like one of the key things? Is it storytelling? Am I giving good advice?
in artists or in writers?
Let's go artists. Only reason I say is because I get hit with that question of like, hey, I want to do what you're doing. How do I
kill Daniel Warren Johnson? That's how you're
well, yeah. Absorb his powers.
Yeah, his absolute Batman annual this week ripped. But yeah, the thing you look for is, I'm gonna sound a real old dude for a minute, so please bear with me. If your online presence says you're a comic book artist, and I can't find a comic book page on your profile, I am gonna go outside and scream my head off. If you want to be a comic book artist, draw comic book pages. And I mean that it sounds so simple, but like most people don't do it. Most people don't sit down and draw actual sequential pages anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they might, and if you want to be a cover artist or do pinups, like that's totally cool. Or be a character designer, that's fantastic. But if you're going to be a comic book artist, you need to do sequential pages. And I'll tell you one thing, Tad, the last year or two, I've followed a lot of like soon to be or recent graduates from your alma mater, the Kubert School.
Yeah.
And something that those younger kids are doing now that I think is really smart is they're not just doing samples, like, because usually you'll do like 2 or 3 pages and they'll just end abruptly. They're like, oh, okay. And you'll have to judge the storytelling, the composition, the dynamics of the page, which is all cool. But like, that was like,
those were the assignments, is they would give us like the Marvel X-Men tryout script or something.
Right. But now I'm seeing kids being like, I'm going to draw a full scene, a scene with a beginning, middle, and an end, which as an editor, you go, oh, this ended naturally. There was an end point to this scene. It wasn't just, I'm going to draw Spider-Man chasing the Vulture for 3 pages and it abruptly stops. You know, okay. There's one artist, I forget his name, but he's been doing like 1 or 2 page samples where I'm just like, wow, to do a full story or a full scene in 1 or 2 pages, as an editor, it blows you away. So yeah, just drawing actual pages and showing that you know the fundamentals and knowing that you know timing is everything. Yeah. And recently, earlier this year, a very young artist reached out to me, and this happens from time to time. They said, I really want to draw comics. And you're like, okay, I really hope this person has pages. They have like 20 pages to show me.
Yeah, yeah.
This is amazing. And then I critiqued them. I gave them notes, and I said, yeah, we should work together. And then we were working on a pitch for something. We showed it to an editor, and the editor was like, does this guy have any other pages I can look at? I looked at the stuff you sent me already. I looked at the pages you did. Was there anything else? And in the 2 weeks that he'd been waiting, he did 5 more pages just for himself to keep himself going.
Wow.
And it's like, if you do the work, obviously you have to be good. You have to take notes. You have to take feedback. But if you do the work, man, how far it's going to take. I mean that so sincerely.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think a lot of times, because like when you go to conventions and stuff, right, you see like the pinups are king, right? Like people are buying prints of that, and so a lot of times, like when I get hit up by artists and I want to work on I want to work for DC, or I want to work for IDW or something, it's nothing but pinup. So it makes me so happy to hear you say that, like, oh yeah, narrative. If you have narrative, you've got a shot. Because like, I don't know, I feel like when I was coming up, all I had was narrative, and it was the only thing that got me probably in the door, because I wasn't like the best artist by any stretch of an imagination, but my storytelling I felt was always like my strength.
Sure.
And no, it's nice to hear that, because I don't know, I think sometimes kids, they see that and they go like, oh, a pinup. If I have really cool pinups, that's what's going to get me trying at DC or Marvel or wherever, you know?
And I've been super blunt with people. I've been like, hey, like if your portfolio starts with a pinup, get it out. Put it at the end. Like that's like bonus material.
Yeah.
If you want to draw comics, you start with pages. And if you want to draw comics, put pages on your profile. And like I tell people, like, try to do 3 or 4 new pages every couple months. I understand when it's not your job, it takes a lot of time, but every 3 to 4 months, draw a new batch of samples, and like people are gonna notice.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I think if you could do like independent, like short story, even on like Instagram or something, like it seems like so many people have launched their careers doing that kind of. I mean that's how I got my first gigs, is doing. I did like a web comic back in the old web comic days, you know, when everybody had one.
And unfortunately, now with how much like slop there is on the internet, you're also going to stand out way more. You know, like if you produce things that are real and drawn and have craft, like you're going to stand out above like all the detritus out there.
The AI.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
So what was the first project that you edited? Do you remember that you were like straight up like the editor on?
Oh, like the full editor?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
My first full editing credit was on a single issue called the Catwoman Election Special by Meredith Finch, the writer, and Shane Davis, the artist. And I was assigned it by the publisher of DC at the time, Dan Dio. I had been a young assistant editor, and they were like, all right, it's time for you to edit something, fully edit something. And Dan had put together this election special. So he was like, and it was the year of the 2016 election. No pressure. So he was like, all right, you're going to edit this, and you will report to me, again, the co-publisher of the company, zero pressure, and you will succeed or fail. And thankfully, I think I mostly succeeded. And then maybe later that year, we did an anthology book called Legends of Tomorrow, named after the TV show that was on the air at the time. But like, I don't think we shared any characters with that show. I think we just used the name. And it was a book. I might be remembering this wrong. There was a story with four 20-page stories in it, each 6 parts. So it was a 6-part miniseries that was 80 pages. And I edited the Metamorpho part, star of the hit film Superman, written and drawn by Aaron Lepresti, who's a pretty great comic book writer and artist. But like, in terms of like, I'm trying to remember like what the first thing was that I was like, oh, like I didn't just edit this, but I put this project together, because those projects were kind of put together, and then they're like, you make this work. And the first thing I really helped put together that made me fall in love with editing and really changed my career was me and this guy named Alex Antone, who's now at Skybound as an editor. He might even be their editorial director or a higher level. I don't remember. But we took over DC's quarterly anthologies, like the Christmas book, the Halloween book, and then eventually a summer book and a Valentine's Day book. And in some years, the Christmas book is like really good, and some year the Christmas book is like, hey, did you remember that you had to make the Christmas book? And it's like a bunch of stuff that is like barely done and like roughish. And the year before we took it over, it was done really well by editors like Paul Kaminsky and Amy Marino. But in the past, it had been a little bit touch and go. So we were like, hey, what if we put like all of our love, energy, and resources into this book and tried to make the coolest holiday special ever? And we used like all of our favors. We hired like really cool people, and Dan DiDio, to his credit, was like, this is awesome. You guys are going to edit 4 of these a year from now on. And we were like, oh, that's great. And we assumed that they were going to be really straightforward, like a Valentine's Day book, a summer book, a Halloween book, and a Christmas book. So then we get to the Valentine's Day book, and we're putting together like our Valentine's Day plans. And Dan called us. He's like, here's the name of the Valentine's Day book. It's called Young Monsters in Love. And it's all about monsters.
Okay.
Like, what? Like, we thought we were just going to get to do like regular Valentine's Day. And Dan was like, no, I want you to use all of the monster characters. And we were like, why? And he was like, that's what I want. That's what you guys got to do. Get to it. At first, we were like horrified and confused, but then we were like, oh, this is an opportunity to not only to prove that we can like do something crazy, but also like we could then use characters that you couldn't normally use in like ongoing books. Like we were like, if you want us to use monsters, we're going to get weird. Like we're going to get real weird. Like we used Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, and I had James Robinson write a Creature Commandos story. One of them got a Dear John letter during World War II. Like I was like, let's get weird, man. If you're challenging me, we're going to do this thing. And then after that, he was like, guess what, guys? Except for the Halloween book, every single one of this is going to have a weird theme. And we were like, oh my God. So the summer one was about bad guys, and it was called Beach Blanket Bad Guys, named after 50s movies I'd never heard of because I was a 25-year-old child at the time. And then I made a joke. I was like, what do you want the Christmas one to be called? The Nuclear Winter Special? And they were like, oh, great idea, Dave. And I was like, oh, crap. And then that became post-apocalyptic winter holiday stories. And I'm now going to name off all of them because then eventually like we embraced it. We had fun. Then we did Mysteries of Love in Space for the next Valentine's Day one. There was Dog Days of Summer, which is all about like the pet characters. New Year's Evil, all villains. And then the last one me and Alex did before we handed them over to another editorial team was called Crimes of Passion. And it was just all like the street level vigilantes and love stories. And every Valentine's Day without fail, I've said this to him before, and I love him so much, Alex demanded that we did the cover from the 50s where it's like someone kissing someone they're not supposed to. And then their real partner comes in and goes, how dare you? And we did this 3 years in a row. And every year I'm like, can we try something else? He was like, no, that's our signature. That's what we do here. And I was like, great. All right. The first year it was Frankenstein walking in on Swamp Thing and Lady Frankenstein making out. The second year it was Superman seeing Darkseid and Lois kind of snuggling. And then the last year was Catwoman kissing Nightwing, and Nightwing turns to Batman and goes, you don't understand, man. And I was just like, all right, this is what we do here every year. And I think since we stopped editing those books, I know they don't do it because I'm writing for the upcoming Valentine's Day issue, and that is not the cover. They've gone in a different direction than our spiteful lover direction. Yeah.
That's funny. I love it.
Those anthologies really taught me how to write. I hired so many people who I would then hire to do miniseries and ongoings and all sorts of stuff. And people who started working on those books are now the reliable creators and stars of today. I'm very proud to report.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
around for new people.
I feel like one of the things that people don't talk about in comics is that a lot of the things that the reason why so many things get made, a lot of it is like stuff that is purposely made. I feel like because there's a challenge to it. You know what I mean? Like like everybody knows that like this isn't going to be easy to do. So let's see if we can actually get it made. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally a miracle that any comic book gets made. So next time you go to the comic store and there's like 20 books out this week, just remember, like, man, there's a lot of people who got very frustrated to make these things happen.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when you talk about challenges, to go back to Man-Bat for a second,
yeah,
Man-Bat was delayed initially from 2020 to 2021. So we started talking about it in 2019. And Dave Wielgosz, former co-publisher of DC Comics, very animated guy, as I mentioned before, loves monsters. I owe him a lot in my career because he was one of the people who let me start writing while I was there.
Oh,
so when
really?
I tell the story, so when I tell the story, it's told with affection. It's told with love for Dan. But Dan had come upstairs the day the Morbius trailer was released.
Oh gosh!
And he was like, that trailer was crazy. He was like, Morbius. He was like, we have Man-Bat. Man-Bat's awesome. And we're like, yeah, Man-Bat is awesome. And he was like, great, we're gonna do a Man-Bat miniseries. And we were like, okay, cool, let's do it. And we didn't know, because sometimes when an obscure character gets a miniseries or something, like sometimes it's like to maintain the copyright. But this just seemed like Dan was like, I just think Man-Bat's cool and I want to make a Man-Bat miniseries. And we had another writer attached and they dipped like at the last minute. And we went to Dan and we were like, hey man, the guy left. He left. We have an artist, we have no writer. And he pointed at me, he said, you're the writer. And I had at this point written like 3 short stories. And I knew he liked me, or at the very least supported the idea of writing. So when I was like, yeah, man, like instead of shooting the messenger, he gave the messenger the comic book to write.
That's awesome. I mean, that's also like, okay, feet in the fire. Here you go.
Exactly. It's one of those like, hey, when an opportunity comes up, don't say no. Like, when he said it to me, I was like, that's insane. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I went home and I was like, what are you talking about? What? So yeah, no, so much is a challenge. I mean, and as an editor, like, did people expect me to call them on the phone and be like, hey man, do you want to do a Christmas story about like the Atom? They probably like, no, what are you talking about? They're like, I'll do it because I need a credit and I'll prove to you that I can make comic books.
Yeah.
You know, like I offered people a lot of weird stuff over the years that thankfully they did. And then afterwards they were like, I'm really happy that you asked me to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, that's part of the job of editing, is like trying to look at somebody's work. And obviously, you know, I did a lot of Batman, but on those anthology books, it was about being like, oh, I think you could do a crime syndicate 4th of July story and it would be great. You know, like that's the weird thing about superhero comics, is you have to think about stuff like that from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love that you're saying that, like, that you worked on all the weird stuff, because I feel like back in the old days, you know, especially come from the Kubert school, you looked at like Joe's catalog. It wasn't until later in his life that he was working on, I mean, he did a lot of like Hawkman and stuff like that, but like it wasn't until later in his life that you'd see him like redo a cover for, you know, Conan or something. It seemed like he did a lot of like weird, you know, like the Ghost Tank, and it would be like 20 issues, and it'd be like these really strange, bizarre World War II themed comics and stuff. And then you don't see as much of that. I personally, I like the weird stuff. Like that's always the stuff I've, like, the superheroes are cool, but it's not something that, I don't know, like it feels like, especially as a creator, as an artist, right? Like you think that that's all you're going to be drawing, but I probably spent majority of my career drawing everything but superheroes.
Totally. You know? And, you know, I'm happy you brought that up, because that was part of the fun part of those anthologies, was like, wow, like, because people's first gigs used to be really weird stuff like the Atom or Enemy Ace or stuff like that. And then like with the anthologies, we kind of brought that back, and we could be like, hey, do you want to do a story about Space Cabin or you know, Hawkman, or something that maybe, you know, you wouldn't think was gonna be your first gig, and people would rise to the occasion and crush it. And it was awesome. I was like, I love that we gave people some first jobs in DC that were things they probably were never expecting. And obviously it makes your resume more interesting, but like to your point too, you know, in these superhero universes, there's a lot of crazy, interesting characters. So, you know, and while there was plenty of artists who loved drawing superheroes, there was also artists like John Buscema at Marvel who famously like did not like drawing superheroes. And when he could draw stuff like the Silver Surfer or Conan the Barbarian, he was like, I am much happier doing this, please. So there's also like, you know, some superhero artists have not always loved drawing superheroes, but also there's characters who kind of toe the line between genres. Like,
sure,
I bet we could find you a couple that you would crush, Tad. I believe that in my heart. And the Supergirl right now is not shabby. I will say that.
I'll take that. You hear that, folks? That's from a DC certified editor, not shabby. Not shabby.
I am curious. As an editor, you know, I know you've been DC editor, IDW editor, working on Turtles too. What is it like to communicate with like Warner Brothers or Paramount, or for what you can say? I get there might be stuff that you can't say, but I just be really curious what that communication is like if they don't like something that you like, or vice versa.
Right. Well, it's two very different things. Because in the example of DC, like Warner Brothers owns DC Comics, so they own all the characters, and we have DC Comics as a division of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So, you know, Warner Brothers is always watching, and if you're going to do something like really big and dramatic, of course you have to present it to them. But by and large, they're like, hey, you know, we trust you guys to do your thing. But yeah, when you want to do something like really crazy, or like kill off a character, introduce a brand new version of a character, something like that, like you do definitely have to run it past them, and you know, they give you notes and constructive feedback. And I think a little bit more so now that, like, it wouldn't be surprising if these characters are going to be in a movie next year or something. Again, like this year there was a Superman movie that had Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Guy Gardner in it. The toy box is open, you know? So, but even with that, like something like WB must be telling those people what to do all the time. WB is really cool for the most part, you know? Like, and when I even say for the most part, even times where they're like, hey, we don't think that's a good idea, it's usually something where I'm like, I understand, and it just shows that they care and they're thinking about the brand. And then with Paramount, like, you know, IDW licenses Ninja Turtles, Paramount and Nickelodeon, Paramount. So yeah, that's a much more different relationship. And, you know, they are also very protective and very vocal, and, you know, they are, you know, they're very nice people, and they, you know, they want to see the characters in great stories by great creators. And, you know, they just tell you honestly when they're like, I don't get this, or like, I don't understand why you're doing it. And it then becomes a conversation, but it's always a thoughtful and respectful conversation.
Sure.
I think there's a vision that, like, there are people who work on these characters who care and people who don't care, and everybody cares, you know? And some days, like, it's like great drama. Some days you both care and you have a completely different perspective. Someone's going to win and somebody's going to lose, but it doesn't come from a place of hate or animus or like, I think you're stupid. It's just like, I don't think this is right now.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's never going to be the right idea.
Have you ever just been like, listen, I really like this idea, Paramount. Hey, Kevin Eastman, go talk to him. Tell him that it's going to work.
Dude, Kevin Eastman is an amazingly cool guy, first and foremost.
He is.
No, honestly, I've never had that experience with them as a writer. They couldn't have been more supportive the 3 times I've written Turtle stories. Like, the notes I got were like fairly minimal and largely very supportive, and I was very proud of the work I did. As an editor, you know, I can usually tell when something is going to be like hey, we're probably going to talk about this. And I will highlight in an outline or a script, like, let's talk about this. Like, I think that this is probably worth discussing. But again, it's always done from a place of like respect and care. And and like, everybody there loves the stuff. The reason you love stuff, they went to go work at those companies for the same reason that I went to go work at DC and IDW, because like they really love those properties and they want to see them flourish and do well in all the different mediums they exist in. You know, like there's no kind of like Roger Rabbit bad guy at the end of the story. Right. You know? But everybody's mostly cool.
That's cool. Talking about Turtles for a second, because you're the editor on TMNT Journeys, which is the Volume 4 Mirage reprint. So, and I don't know.
Wait. What? He's been waiting, David, for like a week to ask you this.
I have.
I'm so
not even kidding. I'm so
excited.
This was one of the first comics for me when as a kid, I didn't really read comics until I got older. So I didn't know the Turtles were necessarily a comic, or maybe I'd heard it, but I never read them. So this is one of the earlier Turtles comics that I read. And from what I remember and what I read when Peter Laird sold the rights to Ninja Turtles to Nickelodeon, was that he maintained the ability to continue that series through Mirage if he so chose. what was it? Did you guys work with him to get this done, or was this just something that you guys just went ahead and did?
So every year we sit down with Paramount and they have projects they want to do and projects we want to do. The main Turtles guy over there, Jeff Whitman, who is the world's biggest Turtles fan, a very sweet guy. I think it came from him, the idea like, hey, let's reprint TMNT Volume 4. And I consider myself a pretty big TMNT fan. I grew up with the property. I grew up in Western Massachusetts where it was made.
Yep.
And even I was like, there was a TMNT comic in the early 2000s. I didn't know about this. So I had to go back and look at the material. And I was like, this stuff is amazing.
Yeah. Well, they never finished it.
No, and they didn't finish it, but like we're reprinting the whole series, so you never know what might come. But yeah, no, I mean, largely when you're reprinting something, you do give people the heads up. And I mean, we certainly did give all those original creators the heads up. And I'm also really happy to report that every issue has a variant cover that's either done by a old school Mirage artist, folks like Dan Berger, Eric Talbot, Jim Lawson, who I just talked to the other day. Kevin did a cover for the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet.
Michael Dooney's going to do a cover. We kept his main covers because they're gorgeous.
They are.
So like we're keeping it in the family, very much so. So, and we're in the middle of reprinting the first year of the book. So I don't know what may come.
Yeah.
But I think the original issues ended somewhere in the 30s. I think the last couple weren't even printed physically. I think they were actually just printed online, if I'm not horribly mistaken.
Yeah, some of those books are really hard to find and have a super high value for the kind of the end of the series, like the high 20s.
Yeah.
What is it? Well, first of all, I want to commend you guys for keeping it in its original black and white form and not coloring it. I love that. And then as an editor on a project that's already complete, right? It's mostly complete. So what is your role in that? Is it kind of what you said earlier, where when you're an intern, kind of going through, making sure everything's going to print good? Like what do you guys do for that?
It's a lot of that stuff. It's going through and making sure the files are all secure because they're from the early 2000s. And like, I think we take for granted how great we've gotten at Photoshop.
Sure.
So, and like you want to like leave everything as intact as possible. But like if a balloon looks weird or a word kind of looks weird or something should have more, to get very technical, like if a balloon is like very compressed and it's like, if we just put a little more space between the top of the balloon and the bottom of the balloon, it'll just read better. Like stuff like that, where it's like, it's going to enhance your reading, but you're not going to be like, they changed my comic book. So
right.
Invisible things that are going to enhance your experience. But yeah, just making sure that the lettering files are intact. Everything's going to print well together, that we have all the art, that the art scans are thankfully like clean. And then, other stuff like that was a Mirage book, and that was not the only Mirage book they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of ads for other Mirage books, which are like really cool. It's cool to like time travel back to that era, but we reprint the ads. So it's about like extracting those as well. And like, removing like letters, columns and things like that. Just printing the core material. And again, taking the issues and coming up with the best variant cover possible, and going to a variant cover artist and being, hey, I want you to do a cover for this, but like, don't just draw the 4 turtles jumping in the air. We have 1,000 of those. Here's 3 great ideas from the actual comic that we think you can do a cover based off of. So it's also about like seeing like what new thing can we bleed from the stone of this old thing.
No,
dude, that is such a great statement. What new things can we bleed from the stone of this old thing? Some might think you're a writer.
I try. We're trying to get a little more full time with it every day.
I need you to do me a favor. Talk to Paramount. Talk to IDW. Let them know we need like a really, really nice hardback collected edition of this when it's all said and done. Do that for me, please.
I would not be shocked if that happened, because I'll tell you this: like one thing that those folks have done incredibly well is like, all of this material is so phenomenally collected, especially modern IDW TMNT comics that they've done. Like there's 20 hardcovers and they're amazingly printed.
Yep.
The mapping is incredible. The way they structure the issues is incredible. So like, I don't know any plans, but like, I would not be shocked if you got your deluxe Journey's hardcovers at some point.
Perfect. Perfect.
But let me ask you, as a Turtles guy, like, there's so many more characters in the Turtles universe than the main four, and Splinter. Like, do you have like a favorite obscure or strange Turtles character, or mutant, or warrior?
Yeah,
like, is there any character effect? Oh, hit me.
I'm a really big fan of the Fugitoid.
Yeah, there you go.
Really big, especially not only in the original Mirage run, but I thought they did a good job with him in the IDW run. And then for me, and this is weird. This is weird for a lot of folks who are my age and Tad's age, who grew up on the 87 cartoon. But my favorite cartoon of the Turtles is the 2003 Turtles.
Me too, dude. It's the best.
And I love the Fugitoid in that show as well.
So good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
but
I love that cartoon, and it's something. Also, shout out to comic artist Kari Randolph, who worked on a lot of designs for that show, I think, and that Dia brought it back to do covers for Turtles. And it's always like, oh, this looks like the 2003 show. And it's always sick. Always sick.
That's like my awesome. My comfort show. So I've got all, like, if I can't sleep, if I have a hard time sleeping, I'll just throw that on my phone under my pillow, and so I can just listen to it and it'll help me fall asleep too. But yeah, I love that show.
I love that because I love the show, but I also love it because, like, you've picked a cartoon with so much yelling.
Yes.
To fall asleep to.
Yeah.
Like, so many people who are just yelling and crying in pain and agony.
Yeah.
And clashing swords, like so much like metal on metal.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is it for me.
You
this
can't
is gonna help me get back to Slumberland.
I always had a great idea for a drinking game, is when you watch that cartoon and every time Splinter goes, "My sons," take a shot, you'd be hammered.
Wrecked.
So bad.
Wrecked.
Yeah.
There's it's funny because, like, with like Instagram reels, like, which are rotting our brains because it's quick content, you like discover stuff you didn't know about. And I never watched the CGI movie from 2007 to 2008 because I was a teenager. I was in high school.
That's my second favorite Turtles movie.
But so I'm gonna watch it. But, like, there's a scene with Raphael and Splinter where Raphael is like very ashamed of himself, and he's just talking to Splinter. And he's like, "I understand, like, don't like me.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm your least favorite son." And Splinter's like, "Just because you are my most difficult student does not mean you aren't my favorite son." And I like, makes me like cry.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like that in every iteration of the Turtles that's like way more emotional than you'd expect. And you're just like, oh, this is the best shit. Oh my God.
I love that movie so much. They had it. There was a sequel lined up, but it coincided once the sale to Nickelodeon happened. It got canned. But I saw that movie in theater. That was my daughter's first movie when she was like,
no kidding,
8 months old. We went to see that.
That's so fun.
Oh wow,
love that movie. It's my second.
Does she still love turtles?
She'll tolerate them. She'll tolerate them for me. For her dad.
God bless her.
Yeah.
The new movie is pretty excellent, I have to say. Like, I think it's part of, like, the post Into the Spider-Verse, like, we're pushing animation further than we thought it could go. I think not only is it like a really good movie and it's got some great scenes, but, like, I was kind of like, and obviously I work on the brand part-time as a freelancer, but, like, I really thought it deserved to get nominated for a best animated movie Oscar, because, like, I really thought, like, the artistry, the craft that was on display, the fact that, like, it felt both like you were looking at an independent comic book, but also looking, like, at a comic book your friend could have drawn in a notebook in high school at the same time.
Yeah.
It was a pretty phenomenal aesthetic to pull off. And it felt like old school Nickelodeon Class B Chupo animation as well. Like, I just thought they really hit it out of the park as a like story, but also as like a technical achievement. And,
I really enjoyed the animation. I enjoyed the animation, and I enjoyed, you could tell, I really enjoyed all of the voice acting in it. I thought that was really good, but not,
Brian, be honest. We know it's not your favorite.
It's not my favorite, but hey, people love it, and I'm okay with that. So
I have a soft spot for the third live action Ninja Turtles movie, because, like, remember when people used to just, like, record stuff off of TV?
Yeah.
And almost like mixtapes, they would just give you the videotape.
Yeah.
Like, me and my brother were like really little kids, like 5 and 1 or something. And somebody was like, "Hey, I recorded the third, and it's been 30 years, so they're not going to come after me. They'd be like, hey, I recorded the ABC Saturday night movie was Ninja Turtles 3. Here's a
Hell yeah.
VHS. And we were like, this is sick. And like, they're samurais. I love it. Couldn't get enough of it. So like, look, like we're all gonna love what we're gonna love. Everyone can love their own version of the stuff.
Absolutely.
That's why there's someone love.
Dude, I saw that movie in theater with like all of my buddies, and we thought it was the coolest shit in the world. Like, they're time traveling.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah,
it's so.
I hear you, man. I'm right there with you.
And that first live action movie is legit. Like, it's pretty crazy that like only 6 years after the comic comes out, they make like a really good, really faithful live action adaptation of the comic where like it takes other comics like 30, 40, 50 years before they get a adaptation that like is halfway decent.
Yeah. That first movie was like a real movie, you know.
Did you go to the 30th anniversary showing of it?
No, I missed it. And IDW was like, "Hey, we have tickets," and I was doing something that weekend, and so IDW offered us tickets, and then I was home and I had to do something. And my best friend, one of my best friends, is in Big Turtles, and I was like, "We can go see it." And I was like, "I'm so sorry, I have to do something." But like, one of my few regrets from this year is I didn't get to see it this year.
They opened the movie with like, it was a preview to a documentary that they were making on the making of that movie. So they showed like an alternate opening, a couple of bonus scenes. Like they shot,
it's so crazy.
They shot Casey, like the opening shot of Casey Jones was straight out of the comic when he's like watching TV and getting just angrier and angrier, lifting, like doing bicep curl. Like they shot that scene for the movie. So they showed us a little preview of that. And then in the movie itself, there was a couple of kind of little bonus extra scenes that they threw in, like 2-second long. Like you finally get to see Michelangelo punching the wall like he does in the Return to New York comic that they cut out of the movie because it was like too dark. So it was cool. It was that was the first time I saw it in theater because my mom wouldn't let me go see it as a kid because Raphael's damn.
Oh, yeah. There you go. It's, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Elias Koteas as Casey Jones, one of the top 10 best comic book movie castings of all time.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. Hard agree.
100%. 100%.
By the way, as I'm saying this as a member of the bald community, that guy had amazing hair in those first 3 movies. And as an older gentleman, he is bald. And he looks great. He looks great with hair. He looks great without hair. Watch Zodiac. He shows up in that movie. Watch The American, Let the Right One In. That guy rules. Elias Koteas, underrated.
Agreed. Hard agree. And let's be real. They've talked about making the last Ronin live action movie. You need to bring him back, and you need to bring back Judith Hogue. Just give him a wig. It's fine. I don't even care. Give him a wig. Bring them both back.
Let him be bald. Casey Jones bald. It's fine.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, exactly. Let him bald. I gotta tell you something. As a bald guy, like I shaved my head when I was like 18 because I knew it was happening. I get so bummed out for dudes who are my age. I'm in my early 30s who are like struggling with it, and all the ads that are on social media. It's like, hey, you're a loser if you're losing your hair. Buy this topical cream that's never going to work.
Yeah.
None of that shit works. I tried it when I was like, younger. It's all phony. And like, I've read articles where it's like, hey, like we just figured out how to put hair on hairless baboons and we're going to try it with humans. And I'm like, just tell people it's okay to not have hair, man.
Just
like,
shave your head, man. It's fine.
What's the problem?
I have a good friend who's going through this conundrum and he tried to do the shave, but he's got that like Cro-Magnon brow. Shout out to Kirk in Arlington, Washington.
Oh yeah.
And dude, it makes him look like the angriest, meanest, chubbiest Hulk ever. And it's fine. I can say it about him.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys. He deserves it. He knows. It's all karma. It's all karma coming back to him. But yeah, and so now he's kind of in that, he's stuck in that region, right? Doesn't know what to do. Should he shave it and look like the angriest human being alive, or does he, just rock I told him just rock it how it is. It looks fine, but I think he doesn't want to.
I'll say 2 things. Things, and we can talk about more comic book stuff. Actually, there's a comic book component to this, but yeah, I went to college and like I just knew I had a bald spot and my hair was thinning, and I was like, and there was you know, when you go to college, you're like, oh, hey, there's like a bunch of new people for me to impress. And women who have not turned me down yet, you know? And there was a guy who was like a junior and I was a freshman. It was my first semester. And the guy just started calling me Friar Tuck. And I'm like, it drove me fucking crazy.
That's really fucking mean. Let's be honest.
He'd be like, Friar Tuck.
Mean.
So, you know, we must have been like 3 or 4 weeks in the school. We shaved my head, me and my buddies, which was a catastrophe in and of itself. And then, you know what happened once I shaved my head? The guy started calling me Professor X. You can't win. You
gotta be like, listen, you are a nice guy, but you cannot talk to me this way.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, I should have just like started going to the gym instead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I picked the wrong move. No, but I also got lucky. My head's like a normal shape. You know, like there's no dents, no rivets. Like it's pretty straight up.
I've got some serious dents in my head, so like the hair has to stay or I'm in big trouble. People are gonna be like, oh wow, that's why you're so dumb. Oh man, you took some hits as a kid, didn't you?
Hits.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, I did.
It's because you as a child you learned how to train your skull as the hardest bone in your body.
Oh God. Yeah, okay. All right. To bring it back to comics a little bit,
Sure.
what was what I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit like animated series, Turtles, obviously, but like really, what was the gateway into where you had that moment? Like for me, I was in college, right? Because I grew up very rural, so comics weren't exactly the most accessible outside of like the grocery store. So like for you, what was the kind of turning point where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go for these internships. I want to do this for a living.
Yeah. So I was in 6th grade and comics, this was in the early 2000s and like the graphic novel boom was really hitting in a big way where like Marvel and DC were like, oh, there's money in reprinting these comics as collected editions.
Yeah.
And a lot of money, not just like Watchmen and Dark Knight. We can collect everything. So, you know, we'd go to Barnes and Noble because we were big readers, and our mom was a big reader too. Me and my younger brother Josh, who's a big comic book fan and just the best guy around. And I was 11, and my brother was 7. And my mom, we knew that there was a comic book section in Barnes and Noble, but my mom was like, I don't know anything about comics, and like I don't want to actually buy you guys something that's like inappropriate. Which, like, as a 33-year-old dude, I can be like, you're a classy lady. Like, respect to you. That's a really smart thing to think.
Yeah.
Me, as an 11-year-old, I'm like, there's shit over there and I want to know about it.
That sounds familiar.
We go to
11-year-old.
we go to the comic book store, or we go to Barnes Noble with a relative who we don't see very often, who's super nice. And like we, you know, usually we go in the kids section, right? We leave the kids section, we go to the graphic novel section, and my aunt bought us so many graphic novels that day.
Hell yeah.
And
Sweet.
We met with my mom afterwards at the restaurant. We have bags full of graphics, and my mom is like, first of all, she was very classy. She's like, boys, 1 book each. Like, be nice to your aunt. Like, do not take advantage of the situation. And me and my brother were like, we're taking advantage of this situation. We're leaving with treasure. And also my aunt was a teacher, so she was very much like, if you boys want to read, like, read, you know?
Yeah.
So we left with so many graphic novels that day, and like, thank God they were good ones. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if I'd picked some and like before that, like I'd read like some single issues, like you go to a used bookstore or used comics from, you find some issues, but like this is the first time I was reading like full storylines, and I was like, can't get enough. I gotta find these. And I got so lucky that it was like Grant Morrison, Howard Porter on JLA.
Oh yeah.
David Goyer, Jeff Johns, and Steve Sadowski and Leonard Kirk on JSA, which is a book that was huge for me. Mark Waid and Howard Porter on Fantastic Four. And then me and my brother also bought this was when they first started the Marvel Masterworks program, where they were just reprinting all the comics from the start.
Yep.
So we got Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the Avengers. And all those books just like, they exploded in our heads and like just explode our imaginations. And thankfully, instead of like going home and like yelling at us like she probably should have done, my mom was like, these books seem like they're cool. These kids are reading. They're excited about reading. We'll support this.
Yeah.
You know, and then for a couple of years, it was just reading graphic novels from Barnes Noble, Borders, the library. And then once I was a freshman in high school, it was like, no, every Wednesday every Saturday, we'd go to the library and we'd take out a bunch of graphic novels, like your classics, V for Vendetta, Ronin, Mouse, Blankets, Persepolis. And then we'd go to the comic store and like buy whatever the coolest stuff that was coming out at the time. So I just was hardcore ever since. But yeah, like I can name dozens of comics that were super influential on me.
It's interesting because I feel like that is the time frame when a lot of people either got into comics or rediscovered. Like for me, I was completely like I had liked them as a kid, right? But I'd kind of forgotten about them. But then around that same time, all of a sudden, like they started graphic novels started becoming a thing, and it was like, oh yeah, I remember all these characters. I remember this stuff. And it was a complete game changer. It really was. And then, like you're saying, like with the Borders and stuff, like, man.
I wish I still had, because I had those. I remember going to Borders books in the mall and buying like the Essential Spider-Man and Daredevil. I wish I still had those, man. I don't have more.
Those phone book size books?
Yeah.
They're so expensive now. If you
I know.
them, like
crazy.
Those are the ones that were like newsprint, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're black and white reprints.
I have 3 of them. I have a Sergeant Rock that my wife bought when I was at the Kubert School. And then we have 2 volumes of Captain America that I got in high school.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts.
Can I ask you guys about your Borders?
Sure.
Was there at your Borders, was there also always like a kid sitting on the floor in front of the shelf?
Oh, well,
of course.
I thought that was standard.
Yeah,
those kids aren't paid.
Yeah,
it comes with the store. The kid is reading in front of the shelf. Yeah.
You know what? I'm all for it, though. I'm all for it.
In retrospect, absolutely. Also, I think about the stuff people used to complain about comics of that era, that like there's too many crossovers and like too many long storylines. And in retrospect, it's like, were we complaining about people reading the comic books?
Yeah.
Or today it's like, oh, are people buying the comics? Are they buying variant covers? And like back then it was like, I think there's too many long storylines that people are invested in. And it's like, yeah, boy, I'd love if that was a problem today.
Right.
Do you think overall readership is down?
No, I actually think the last 2 years things have gone up.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a minute there post-pandemic where it was looking dark. And then credits Marvel, DC, IDW, everybody was like, we gotta shake it up. And like DC with the Absolute line, Marvel with their X-Men Ultimate stuff, IDW with the Turtles, and other publishers with other stuff as well. I'm not just saying that because I love all of them to hire me. Like everybody really got together and rallied. And I'd heard earlier this year from the retailer get together that they have once a year that like retailers were like feeling really positive, which is always the bellwether. And then a couple weeks ago, I read an article that was like comic book readership or sales in comic stores are up 20%. And it's not just, it's people coming back and like buying series and reading graphic novels and stuff. Because my friend Alex, again, who I mentioned earlier, he put this in perspective for me. He was like, look, I think he said the comic book market survives on a really healthy combination of readers and collectors. And I do think there was a period where like it was more collecting than reading in the last couple of years. And I think now that the scales have started to balance out again where it's equally collectors and equally readers.
Yeah.
And maybe when I was reading, it was more readers than collectors. And the collectors would come in when it was like, we killed Captain America. We killed the Human Torch. When we killed somebody, basically. Yeah. But now it feels like there's a more like, yes, there's stuff for the collectors and stuff for the readers. And by the way, I do think there are people who are both. But I also talk to people who are like, oh, I just buy variant covers. And that's totally okay. And I also talk to people who are like, I read my comic and I throw it out the window and I let somebody else read it. I'm like, that's also okay.
Which is, that's an interesting, because that's what people used to do, right? Like comics were very much an expendable medium. Like it was something like a newspaper. And I just like, it's kind of hard to imagine that this day and age. I don't know if that's just because of like the world we live in now, but I just couldn't imagine buying a $5-6 comic, reading it, and then just like
not where it was afterwards.
Yeah,
not putting it away in a box and just leaving it on a park bench.
Where are you on the line of like reader collecting?
Say that again.
Oh, for Dave, where are you on the line of reading versus collecting? Because I'm in the middle. I read a lot, but I also I hunt for certain books that I want to collect.
When it comes to issues, like hardcore reader, but like I collect a lot of like, I mean, I buy like the buses, deluxe editions, the absolute like the really fancy stuff. I do read them. I don't just like buy them, but like I will also like I do like love when like there's old editions of trade paperbacks I've never seen before. Like the very early trade paperbacks from like the 80s, like I think are like really cool looking. Like I have like one of the original, I think it might be a first or second printing of the Dark Knight Returns hardcover.
Oh, cool.
Which is a very early collection. I'm like, this is awesome. And for Christmas every year, my brother and I are competing to see like who can get who the coolest comic book gift. Last year, he found me a first printing of the Batman Year One hardcover to go with my Dark Knight Returns. So I definitely collect stuff. And like I said, like collecting is cool. I just also want people to read. And it sounds like I said, these initiatives like Absolute, like Ultimate, like the Turtles relaunch have brought younger readers back. And now it's our responsibility to keep them the same way that the publishers kept me when I was younger. And by the way, when I was younger, people were like, yeah, young people don't read comics. But then I was reading comics and I was like, I'm a young person. And then when I started working in DC, there was 5 or 6 people I worked with and we were all the same age. We all started reading comics at the same time. And we all started on like Batman, the animated series and those cartoons. So like, I don't ever buy the hype too much when people are like, young people don't read comics anymore. Comics are dead. It's all about manga now.
That's
By the way,
true.
manga, also awesome. Boom started when I was a kid too.
Yep.
But like the doomerism never lasts long in comics, I find.
Yeah.
It always blows my mind that for some reason, just the general like public doesn't see manga and like comics all as one cohesive thing.
The same thing.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, I'm a little older, so like I remember when Dragon Ball was like one of the first like well, it wasn't the first because Dark Horse was doing all kinds of stuff, but like they were converting Dragon Ball in the mid 90s to like American sized comics. And like it was one of those where the whole manga boom hadn't taken off yet. And so to me, it's always just seemed like, well, yeah, it's or like, Dark Horse, right? They've famously always like brought Japanese stuff since like the late 80s. And like, when they took over for like Eclipse and everything. And it's interesting that like they always like threw it all together as one cohesive, no, these are just comics. And then I don't know if it's like the size thing. It's just kind of weird. It's always bothered me a little bit. It's like, why is that? Why do they have to be so different?
I think the size thing clearly does matter to a degree because this year DC started their DC Compact line of comics where they reprinted a lot of their evergreen titles in that manga size. And from what I understand, they have sold like gangbusters.
Oh,
I
bought a few of them.
They're really cool.
Yeah,
they're really cool. And they're really well printed. They're selling well. And Marvel has followed suit. They have a similar thing that I think is going well for them. They've collected things like Born Again, Civil War, The Winter Soldier, and Image. There's certain Image books doing it. Like Brian K. Vaughan is doing it with Saga and Paper Girl. So yes, the size thing is a deal breaker for some people. But I'll tell you this: like the one thing I will give manga credit for, and like comics used to be good at it. Like I think one thing that the market still needs to work on is like we need longer series, man. When I was growing up, like when I was growing up, like books used to last at least like 2 years. Like when a book I canceled issue 25, people would be like, man, I wish we got to do more of that. Today, if you get to 12, like God bless you.
Yeah.
And like a lot
can
of
can we talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like you have a unique perspective because you're like Blade. You're the daywalker. You get to work on the administrative end as an editorial, but you also are a creator. And I'm under the impression because I did a bunch of pitches this last couple of years, right?
Me too.
One of the things, one of the big projects I was going for, I was really, I guess, had some steam behind it. I got hit with was it was just too big. Everybody wanted like 5 or 6 issue series. Anything up to like 10 or 12 was just too much of a commitment. And I don't know I'll let you guys talk. Sorry.
I'm trying to bump in here because can we pick this up in a minute? I really got to pee.
Go for it. Yeah.
We take a quick break.
Look at this guy.
Listen, you're a nice guy, but you cannot talk to me this way.
You got to stop with what's that guy's name? King Ali or whatever.
All right, we'll take a quick break.
Check 1, 2. Tiger milk! Tiger milk! I like tiger milk! Give us some more of that, please!
All right, thanks guys, and thanks Matt for the break music. So,
are you feeling refreshed? Are you good to go?
I'm good. I'm ready to rock. So, back to our issue on length of issues. Let's let you chime in there, Dave. What do you got for us? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that readers want longer series, stores want longer series, and publishers want longer series, but man, it's really tough to start them. And
do you think it comes down to a lot of financial risk too?
Oh, 1,000%. And I don't think it's exclusive to comics either. I think it's the same reason why television is so different, right? You hear stories where it's hey, did you know that Seinfeld was barely watched by humans for 3 years? And then it became the most successful TV show of all time. Same thing with Cheers, The Office, Parks and Rec. For any serialized story, I think you have to give it a little bit and let it kind of maybe not be doing so great before it becomes a hotter property, at least when it comes to newer properties, newer creators. Because obviously you go to a place like Image and there's a bunch of long series by more established creators who have really made their bones and they've earned it. God bless them. DC's relaunching Vertigo, and they have said all those books are ongoing. So I really hope that all of those books can go that original dream of the 60 issue 5-year Vertigo book. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just about money. But I will say that's one thing that manga does want. I think that's one thing people respond to about manga is Shueisha, Viz, all these companies they really invest, and even a series gets canceled early on, you're at least gonna get maybe 6 or 7 volumes out of it. Where and in the American market right now, you might get one book out of it. But to your point, Tad, about putting together pitches, I've only put together pitches for miniseries so far, and I would be honest with you, I struggle to think of ongoings just because I'm who's going to let me do that right now?
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be until I have some hits to my name, which, hey, fingers crossed, next year that'll happen. But I have not allowed myself to think about creating an ongoing story because I'm so aware of how the market is, and so you adjust. You're I'll do the best damn miniseries I can. I hope to do many of them, and I hope they're all really worthwhile and rad. But yeah, I mean, I grew up on Why the Last Man, Preacher, Ex Machina, Scott Pilgrim, these long series. And you'd love to have one, if not two, but we'll see how the market does. But things are going in the right direction now, so maybe longer series are going to come back as well. I certainly hope that's the case.
I'm glad. I think it's interesting. I should say I'm glad you made that analogy to TV because I think that is the perfect example, right? Of you'll even see hit TV shows today where there was an Amazon show. I think it had what's his name, where they were the Greek gods. It was the number one show.
Netflix show. Yeah.
Was that Netflix?
Yeah.
It was the number one show in North America for I don't know, almost a month, and they're didn't do good enough numbers. Canceled. Yep. What was it called? Was it called Arrows?
Something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's the other thing where and maybe this is a late stage capitalism thing. I don't want to get political, but it's it feels like we can't love something enough. It's no, we did like that. Why are you taking it away?
Yeah.
And it's well, it didn't do this thing that you don't understand that we understand. And you're I don't understand.
Meanwhile, they're still making The Witcher, meanwhile. So
and to talk about I mean, I'm sure we all have 5 or 6 streaming shows that only we watched.
Sure.
That we wish continued. Remember when YouTube Red was a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had 2 shows to start. Cobra Kai, which was sick, and then ultimately went 6 or 7 seasons. But then they also had a show that I loved. Oh my God. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The name will come to me in a minute, but it was this really cool show. It was a modern day. It felt like it was created by Garth Ennis. It was about this modern day teenager in Boston who was kind of a streetwise Conan the Barbarian, and he had to go kick some people's asses and go get his dad's car back because it had been stolen. I
have never heard of this. This is
I'm trying to remember the name of it because now you can watch it on Amazon. Nobody but me has watched this show, even though I'm this show feels like it was made for me in a laboratory. Show feels like it was made. It was called Wayne. It was called Wayne. It ran for 1 season. It was produced by the guys who wrote the first 2 Deadpool movies. So it's very funny but violent. It ruled. It was the sickest show. But again, only I watched it. And then they brought it back on Amazon because they thought it would be like Cobra Kai on Netflix, and it wasn't. Nobody watched it even when they moved it. So
yeah,
who knows?
So I have news. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the back-to-back World Series champs. They just won the game.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And my dad is celebrating right now wherever he's at.
DC publisher Jim Lee is at that game, so this is good for comics.
This is great. This is great. Jim Lee is my guy. So
the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
In every way, best artist, best editor. He's the man.
He's the man.
People get very jealous when I talk about, like, once in a while, like, Jim Lee's assistant would bring up something he drew for us to look at. Those were good ass days.
Yeah. I had he was just he is my favorite comic artist, but then I got to meet him as well, and he was like every bit stand up dude.
Isn't it nice when people know how much they mean to people?
Yeah.
You know, when people know, like, hey, like, people are expecting me to be cool, and they actually live up to that.
Yep. And that
guy's a class act.
I tell this story. I love telling this story, but it was Rose City Comic Con. I want to say 2021 or 2022 when he was there, and we did a meet and greet with him, and it was great. And then we were on his panel, which was equally as great. He drew a Hulk in about 3 seconds. That's amazing. And he just randomly gave it to someone in the crowd. But we were leaving the convention at the same time, and so he was on the escalator just a couple stairs above us, and we were like, "Hey Jim, your panel was awesome." And he was like, "Oh, thanks." And then he asked how the show was, and I was like, "Oh, it was great, man. I bought a bunch of books." And then he was like, "Well, let's see them. Let's see what you got." And so then I pulled out all my books and I handed them to him, and he was just going through all of my no cameras, no nothing around. Like, didn't have to do that. He was leaving. He could have just said, "Oh, hey, thanks, guys," and then found it out. But he took a 3-minute interaction that, like, I'm still talking about now. It was amazing.
He's the best. I mean, and like I said, like, I'm so happy to report that, like, I worked with basically everybody I grew up loving when I was a DC editor. Yeah. And I will tell you from the bottom of my heart, like 95% of them were exactly who I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
Like, could not have been cooler, could not have been kinder, and, like, were so nice to me and so helpful to me, like, on my journey to become a creative person. And, like, you know, when people complain about this industry, there's things we need to fix, there's things we need to do better. One thing I do raise my hand and say is, like, there's a lot of good people with really kind hearts who work in this business, you know? And there's been bad actors, there've been folks where I'm like, that guy's lame, but, like, I've been really fortunate that the overwhelming majority of people I've interacted with, including Tad, are very nice people.
Not including Tad.
Listen, you can spoil the beans. Everyone knows I'm horrible. I'm a horrible person.
Listen to more episodes. You'll see.
It's that thing. Well, I was gonna say, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's so much emphasis when you do hear about somebody who's, we'll just say, disingenuous or not cool. Yeah. And there's so much energy that gets put onto that you kind of, like, sometimes you forget that, like, oh yeah, the industry is full of really wonderful people. You know,
so nice, so incredible. And, like, people, you know, when I left DC, I want to say this in a way that doesn't sound gross, but I'm going to say it in the gross way because, you know, life sucks sometimes.
Yep.
I lost a lot of power. Like, I could no longer hire you to draw Batman, right? Yeah. So you would think in some people's eyes, like, oh, that guy has lost his value to me.
Right.
That guy is no longer the gateway to the thing I want.
Yep.
That's very not much been the case with me. Like, so many people have kept in touch with me since I left DC.
And, like, that's awesome. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear.
To this day, we'll say stuff like, how are you doing? And, like, how's your career going? Is there anything I can do to help? Do you have anything I can look at? Or we'll say things that, like, hey, like, I don't forget that you hired me, or I don't forget that you gave me a chance. And, like, I would never take credit for anybody's career. Like, there's people I hired for the first time or the second time where I'm really proud, but all those people are so talented and somebody else would have hired them, right? But the fact that people remember that I did stuff like that, and, like, you know, 3 years removed from me being at DC, like, again, like, on my darkest days where I'm like, No one's reading my pitches. My books aren't getting approved. I
Yeah.
don't know when I'll ever write an ongoing. How is this ever going to work out for me? I remember like I did work that people liked, but more importantly, I did work that mattered to the people who did the work. And you can't trade that for anything in the world.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Yeah,
That's great.
I'll be honest. Like, I have dark days as well, where I'm like, I don't want to work in this industry anymore for same things you're talking about. And then it's usually because it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, the people they're such great people. It's such a wonderful industry. Like, I have to stay. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. You know what I mean?
But Tad, sometimes you've been my light in the darkness when I'm having those days, because I'll be in a really bad mood, and you'll send me something for project redacted by publisher redacted, and I'll be like, oh man, it's not so bad today. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep doing this. That's not so bad.
We're getting there.
Yeah,
exactly.
You never like. That's what I mean. Like, you like on many days, like, the last couple, like I had a stretch of road over the last couple months where I was like not working. Like I had sent out all the new samples I had. And once you send out new samples to people, like that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like you can't just keep sending emails where you're like, excuse me, do you know that I'm still looking for work? It's like, they know. They'll let you know. And when I would get stuff from you on thing that will come up later in the future, I'd be like, this is happening. I'm really proud of what we're doing. I really love what Tad is doing, and we're collaborating on something I think is meaningful. So, you've also been that positive person in my life a few times the last couple of weeks. So I just wanted to take
that makes me feel really good, man. I'm glad. That makes me feel, I don't even have words. Thank you.
Yeah.
Most of the time, Brian's just giving me a hard time of like, come on, man, let's go. Let's get.
That's true.
What are you doing?
I don't know what you're talking about, because anytime he needs someone to tell him his stuff is cool, he'll send me a picture of what he's working on. I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
See, this is what's great about Brian. I could do the worst drawing and send it to him and be like, oh, dude, that's fucking awesome.
It's true.
That's the best.
I'll tell a story. And again, I won't talk about like who the project is for or what we're doing, because that's secret. But so, I'd finished writing part of this, and the editor was like, who do you want to work with? And I'd sent a list, and the editor like really loved my script, and I was like, great. But I was also a little nervous because they didn't have a ton of notes, and I was like, okay, like I hope that like we're not just like rubber stamping. It's like, I hope if I did something wrong, they would tell me, right? Because that's the relationship. You want to know, like, if I'm doing the right thing, you're gonna let me know. If I'm in the wrong direction, you're gonna let me know.
Yeah.
So anyway, they were like, who do you want to draw this? And I'd sent over a list of people, and the editor called me and said, these people are all very talented. None of them are right for this book. They were like, these are all wrong. And I was like, oh, whoa. Awesome. I was so relieved, because like that's what you want to hear. You want to hear like, hey, you're not looking in the right place.
Sure.
And the editor sent me Tad stuff, and I was like, whoa, this stuff rules.
Because I'll take it.
and not only did it rule, but like, this again, I'm walking on eggshells here talking about details, but like, we'd sent Tad some material, and Tad came back with drawings, and I was immediately like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
I didn't work with this guy. I know he's the guy. So, and yeah, again, I'm with you, and like I'm so excited to be working with him, and I've shown some of my other comic creator buddies some pages of what we're looking at, and they're all like, dude, this looks legit. So
I've seen them. They look good. They look real good.
Yeah.
Brian's been privy to a few pages.
Good. I think we're going to take the world by storm. But yeah, no, I mean, look, like, you just want to work with good people. And also, like, there's nothing more important than, like, hey, would you work with me again? Because if someone works with you and they're like, I had my fill, you're like, oh, that's a bummer. Like earlier I mentioned Sumit, who I worked on Manbat with. We did 5 issues together. I loved it. But, like, in my heart, I'm like, I want to write that guy a better comic book. Like, even though I love that comic book, I'm like, nothing would make me happier than working with him again and writing the best comic book he's ever drawn. Because I think I could do it now. Or like, other people I've worked with, like Jorge Corona, Pablo Calar, or Miguel Mendonca, a bunch of people who I love, where I'm like, I want to work with you again. I want to write something even better for you than I did the first time.
Ooh, Jorge's gonna be a tough one to get, man. That guy's blowing up.
Yeah,
former guest of the show.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, good.
He's the best guy in the world.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, I met him years ago at BoiseCon, and him and Morgan, and yeah, they're like my favorite. Like when I find out that they're going to be at an event that I will be at, I'm immediately texting them like, "Oh, hey, where do you guys want to go get food? Let's make plans. Come on now."
Yeah.
So
the nicest people in the world. Yep. Jorge and I did a Batman and Superman story together for DC. It's still one of my favorite things I've ever written. And I know we're going to work together again someday. He's very busy. He's about to do Lobo with Scotty, which I don't think the world is ready for.
I'm excited for that.
It's like a perfect idea. You know what I mean? But like Jorge's the sweetest guy, and we did that story together, and every one of my artist friends was like, "Dude, we need the pages from that story." And they would hit him up, and like he was just busy or didn't get back to them. One of my buddies came back from New York Comic Con and bought one of the pages from our story and gave it to me as a gift.
Whoa.
So I have a Jorge page, and I look at it, and like it was already amazing. I wrote a story that he drew, you know what I mean? But like now I look at this page and I'm like, what a life. What a beautiful life this is, you know? Yeah, Jorge Corona, on top of being phenomenally talented, is one of the nicest dudes in the world. Morgan, also supremely talented. Her and my friend Sarah Miller did a graphic novel that came out through First Second, one of the best publishers in comics, earlier this year, and it was phenomenal. Two extraordinarily talented, nice people.
Very cool. Very cool. That
Very
Supergirl
cool.
is coming along nicely, sir. It's coming along nicely.
I think it's a really good Supergirl.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I got to admit, I've been looking at old DWJ's work lately, and I just love how he handles everything. So I'm trying to, for these things, I'm trying to like loosen up, because I have a tendency to like overly. It's weird. The only thing that I feel like I get loose with is when I get to draw dinosaurs. Everything else, I feel like I always have to like over render, over plan, blue line everything. So like that's one of the reasons like we started doing this like live drawing, because it's just to be a little bit more spread, play with the ink, draw more with the inks, you know. So some things work, some things don't. Oh well, there's zero like consequences, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I you know, artists can obviously do that. I try to encourage writers to do the same thing, where I'm like, guys, just go to your notebook and write something. Even if you don't show it to anybody, just do something to warm up. I don't think writers warm up enough the way artists do.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, can we touch on that a bit more? Can we explore that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're now like full-time writer. You just had a DC project come out, didn't you?
I had a DC comic come out maybe a couple weeks or months ago, but I had one that just got announced. I'm doing a Valentine's Day short story for them for their book, DC's Supergirl Next Door.
Oh, hey, look, perfect timing.
I did not write the Supergirl story. I can't talk about what character I wrote yet, but I did a story with the newer artist. I think as we get closer to it, we'll announce it soon. But like, you know, every time, like, I have mostly done short stories in my career, and I'm really grateful. Like, I will do any work that is given to me. And the next thing I'm doing is also a short story that I think might be the coolest thing I've done yet. With that being said, am I ready to do longer stuff? Yes. But especially with short stories, because I've done so many of them, like, I just want to make sure I'm giving myself like a challenge each time, so I can say I did something new. So with this one, I don't want to spoil it, but the challenge was trim the dialogue down to next to nothing. Like, tell a very organic story that moves. And, you know, Tad's read some scripts to me. Like, I love my dialogue, but like my constant pursuit is like, make it less important. Make it less important. Make it good. Make whatever dialogue you write good, but like make it less necessary for the experience of the comic book.
See, I love that you say that, because like I'm a firm believer, and I think this is just because of my conversations with, you know, the legendary Joe Kubert back in the day. Is he always used to say to me when we, you know, because I did security at the school and stuff, and so like I would just hound him and the boys with needless questions, but he would always tell me like if somebody can read the comic that you're drawing and understand what's happening, just the basic storyline without reading anything, just looking at the art, then you were successful as an artist. And I kind of try and like apply that to everything I do, where like, you know, if I do a short story or I do an issue, like I worked on a book years ago, and I remember they said, oh, it was like over at Dark Horse. It was like one of my first publications. It wasn't a good, it wasn't well drawn, I'll say. But the writer and editorial decided to go back and eliminate about 50% of the dialogue, because they were just like, oh, we don't need it, because the storytelling was, and I've always thought like, okay, that's when you know you've really done a good job, is as an artist or storyteller, is when, yeah, like you don't need necessarily words.
100%. I mean, as a writer, like I want you to think I'm very smart, obviously, right? And, like, I love writers who are dialogue heavy, and like I like to think I write the dialogue, but like I like the visuals are the most important thing in a comic book. And I met some writers, and this is a totally valid way to work, and I think it's great, who write the dialogue first, and then they write the panel descriptions afterwards. But for me, because I'm such a dialogue obsessive, I was like, I think I'm going to challenge myself and always do all of the visuals first. So
interesting.
And I don't do this well, but I draw the whole comic out first. I write the panel descriptions, and I don't do the dialogue until I've done all the panel descriptions.
Oh, interesting.
I make sure the visuals are solid to me first. And like, when I say solid to me, I really try to like, especially write fight sequences really in a detailed way. And like, if the artist comes back and says, I can't make this work, but I can do this instead, great. That's still collaborating. Where if I'm just like, do whatever you want with the fight, that means the fight might not mean anything, because we're not talking about like who's winning the fight, how desperately is somebody fighting in that fight, what are the stakes for these people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever like, if I'm going to write like, hey, like let's do a 6-page fight scene, and it's going to take you a week or 2 weeks to draw, I better have spent some time thinking about it, you know, and instead of just like hoisting it off on you and being like, when it comes back, I'll take all the credit for it, you know, like that's shitty.
Well, I love that you're like going like, okay, if I'm writing the sequence, I need to think visually, not only just script wise, you know, and I think sometimes you can always tell when especially if it's just a single creator and they're dominant in one area, whether it's dialogue or art, there's always the other side of it's always just kind of lacking a little bit, you know, like we've all seen where like, you know, an artist, like I shouldn't say he, but they go crazy, right, on the art.
Right.
The book doesn't really make much sense. It's beautiful eye candy, but you're like, I don't know what I'm reading.
Totally. And then when it comes to being creative, I also try to think about like being an athlete or being like a martial artist or a weightlifter, and being like, what am I weak at? And what can I do better at? You know, and so, again, like I said, especially with short stories where it's like, hey, like short stories are a great laboratory to work on a thing you're not strong at, you know?
Yeah.
Let's use this 10 pages and like improve part of our craft that may be in an issue or a mini series that we would not have the same opportunity to do. And to circle back to what I said before about like, just like warming up, like again, like artists can do stuff like this piece that Tad's doing right now, but writers, they often like start trying to write the big thing they're doing, and they get stuck. And it's like, just write some stuff. Like I have a newsletter I work on every week, or like I'll write like lists of things that interest me, or I'll just write like just dialogue for fun. And like, doesn't matter what it is. You just need to warm up the engine before you dive in and start working.
Where do you publish your newsletter?
I publish on Beehive. My newsletter is the weekly updave.beehive, beehiiv.com. I post it every week. I do interviews with other creators. I talk about the comics I work on. I give advice. I'll talk about craft a little bit. I will certainly interview you on some point as our thing comes closer to fruition. But it's not only like a thing I do every week because like, you know, it lets people know I'm still alive, but it's like I write it and then I'll be like, I'm ready to write what I'm supposed to do, like in terms of comic books this week. You know,
very cool.
It's a great warm up.
We'll put the link to that in our show notes. So for folks the Tiger Cubs who want to find it, we'll be able to.
Yeah, we're always looking for more subscribers. And this month, I am taking questions on the newsletter about comics I've written, about the craft of making comics. I'm going to answer them in a newsletter post in December. So if your fans are like comic book process heads, like some of them might be, like, I'm opening the door as someone who has been an editor for over a decade and a writer for about 5 years to answer questions about whatever I might know.
Awesome.
Brian,
is it time?
I think it's time.
All right. So this is a little segment that we do, Dave, and it's we call it the question, and it's something that we ask every guest who comes on the show. And the question is, if you had the opportunity to write a series on any property out there, it might be, it doesn't necessarily have to be comic, it could be a TV show, book, movie, whatever, but write that into a comic series, what would you do?
The character I've had the most fun writing in my life is Superman. I'm a huge Superman guy, and I really want to write more Superman. Like every time DC's like, hey, pitch us some short story ideas, I always include a Superman idea. And my whole life, people just like, Superman's hard. And I'm like, I mean, maybe, but also like, I love him. So like, I love the challenge. So I also think it's a safe answer because DC publishes a ton of Superman content.
Sure.
So it doesn't sound like I'm trying to take anybody's job away, but like I eventually they might publish a Superman series I wrote, but I've written 5 Superman stories to date. And I've written a couple more where I snuck him in maybe a little more liberally than they thought I would. So that's my guy. And I nothing would make me happier than to write a series with him. And, to circle back to when I grew up, like All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, when that was coming out issue, and still to this day, like means everything to me. And to have been a monthly reader when that book came out, a book that I think is as significant as any other DC Comics that have been made.
Yep. What
a great joy and gift that was to be a reader when that book came out.
That's awesome.
Not to be a buzzkill, can we take like a 5-minute break? I got to do some stuff here at the house real quick. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys.
All right, we're back from Tad's big red that he had to go in.
No, ew, no, don't do that. Don't try and throw me under the bus. Listen, I had to feed the dog. Cat was attacking me. It was a whole shebang.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Show some respect. Let's keep it classy. Okay.
All right. We'll keep it classy.
Comics is always classy.
I agree.
Oh yeah, always classy.
Yeah.
So Superman's your guy. That's
Superman's my guy. That's number one for sure. And again, like I said, like, it's tough to answer that question sometimes because like you never want to sound like you're like saying like, give me that guy's job. But like sure. I said, DC publishes so many Superman comics every year that's like, they can do one.
Do you have like an idea? Because we had somebody say Superman once, and it turned out being that was the Superman book they wrote.
I have like a handful of ideas. Like honestly, like I would love to just write like just some like, because sometimes Superman is perceived as so big and so mythic and epic that like you forget that you can just tell like shorter, smaller stories with them. And I know earlier I just said like, oh, I want to tell less short stories, but like single issue stories, like 1 or 2 part stories, or like something kind of like what Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman are doing on Batman Dark Patterns, where they're like, hey, we're doing these like Batman mysteries, like getting back to the core of that character. Like, I'd love to, like, I have no doubt that I could do some kind of big Superman epic, but like, I think doing smaller stories, kind of like Batman the animated series, or for that matter, Superman the animated series style stories, remind me like, oh, this is a character you can tell a bunch of different types of stories, but they don't always have to be like world-ending, crisis-level events.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like, Brian, that's what we're always talking about. Is like, oh, I'd love to see. It doesn't always have to be a giant universal. It can be, small scale.
Yeah. I definitely have certain characters who I feel like are better served as street-level characters versus world-ending, gotta save the planet type characters, for sure.
And Superman might be one of those characters that on the surface you think of him as like world-ending type character, but like with the whole like Clark Kent Daily Planet type stuff, man, you could do a really great series with him of just small town stuff going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He also used to like, and the people, it's been exhausted. Like in the 30s, again, he was yelling at people who like had like they were like slumlords and stuff. He was like, hey, stop having people live in crappy tenements. Like people deserve better shit in life, like, he can fight like a giant space monster, but it's when he like has to deal with like the real world that like it works the best. Like even in the movie that came out recently, it's like, hey, like there's a bunch of modern, like that was a good balance, like putting Superman in a modern scenario without over deifying him, and like showing like, yeah, man, like this guy, you can hurt his feelings, you can break his heart.
I'm taking it that you enjoyed the movie then.
I did. I was very happy, like
me too.
To get a good Superman movie, but also like, I think the key to it was the guy who played Superman, David Cornsweet. Like he created a Superman that felt like Superman that wasn't just like a Christopher Reeves impression. I think it's so hard.
Yeah,
Reeves crushed that performance so much to be like, hey, I know that's there. Start from zero and do something else.
Yeah,
and I think he really succeeded with that. I think that movie was good, but the core of it was like how good Superman and Lois Lane were. They just crushed there.
Agreed.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like people, especially like younger generations, that might not be familiar with the Christopher Reeves. I feel like they might not understand that that's like majority of the time what you're getting, that Reeves did such a great job, and for so long that was like the imagery culturally of Superman, that everything else was like an impersonation of him.
I mean, especially when I was growing up in the 2000s, right? Like Smallville certainly referenced the Reeves stuff all the time. Like the
and he was in that show.
And he was in that show. Yeah, that was one of the last things he did before he passed. And obviously, like Superman Returns, which is a weird thing in retrospect, like was literally like a direct sequel to the first two Superman Richard Donner movies. So like, there was a long time where it was both like a great touchstone, but also became a bit of a cage where it's like, this is such a perfect interpretation that everyone else is going to either have to try to live up to it and, quite frankly, like not get there, or like be compared to it to a degree that you'll never do something better. And like this movie, on top of the stuff I liked about it, just felt like it got to break out and be its own thing, which I think was something that was missing from the last couple takes of Superman on the big screen.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you a big? Because I know a lot of comic book writers and artists are big cinephiles. Are you a big film guy?
Love movies. I was so happy that like this year I went to the movies like 20 times, which is like me going to the movies 20 or 30 times is very normal for me. Like I love going. But last year I barely went to the movies and it broke my heart. But this year I was back at the movies all the time. It was a really good year. Right now, like we're slowing down, which bums me out. But like over the summer in particular, we were ripping, and it was a good time. And I have the Criterion collections and the Nerd, and
hell yeah.
Movies.
In your face, Brian. In your face.
As I've shared, and in the thing we're doing, as I've told you, there's a deeply nerdy film reference in the thing we're working on. So like, I'm a big movie guy. Love movies, love TV.
Do you have any classic films that you're like really into? Like some faves?
Yeah, I mean, if movies that like I don't think people have seen enough, I would say like The Friends of Eddie Coyle with Robert Mitchum, which is like a Boston crime movie. It's based on my favorite novel by a writer named George V. Higgins. Robert Mitchum basically plays like an ex-con who like, starts to rat on his friends, and we see like both like the consequences and the things that are not going to work out for him because he ratted on his friends. I think that's a pretty incredible movie. A movie from I believe it's either the late 60s or the early 70s. Peter Boyle, great Peter Boyle from Everybody Loves Raymond, is also in it. It's pretty fantastic.
Wow.
I watched so many movies this year that I'd never seen before on the Criterion collection. I had a really great time. Shout out to a movie most people have seen at this point, but like Michael Mann's Thief was a movie I hadn't watched before this year with James Caan, but like pretty perfect movie. Yep. And then I'm trying to think of something that's like not just about like, psychotic men doing stuff, but it is a genre of movie I like, crazy men doing crazy things.
Did you ever see the movie Hardcore? I was just telling Brian about it last night.
Dude, I almost talked about Hardcore, but I was like, I didn't want to sound like a psychopath. Yeah.
No, it's one of my favorite. Dude, when he's beating up that guy down the hill, when he's kicking his ass and he's rolling down the hill, and was it
no reason? You're like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I love that.
I went on a big Schrader kick. I also watched this movie he made in the 90s with Nick Nolte. What was it called? It's also quite good. But they had like a Schrader collection on the Criterion collection this year that included Hardcore and this other movie. God, wasn't it? Oh, here it is. Affliction with Nick Nolte. Super dark movie. very cool. Yeah, Nick Nolte and what other great actors? Yeah, Sissy Spacek, and Nick Nolte. Really, really good
dude.
movie.
Talk about legend. I was just talking with my sister about Sissy Spacek the other day because she was watching, I forget what movie it was, one of her classics. But yeah, man. Yeah, I come from a big movie family. We watched probably too much. My parents were a little bit older, so especially my dad, he loved all the I essentially grew up on like 60s and 70s TV
You grew
shows.
up on
and
Charles
movies.
Bronson.
Yeah, Charles Bronson. Like the old, like when we were kids, we used to watch a lot of the old like Disney. Brian hates it, but I'm always like, oh, one of the greatest movies that nobody appreciates is Charlie the Lonesome Cougar. And like even Disney people are like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
It's a stupid film.
Yeah.
It was stupid. I loved it.
I come from like two very big families. My mom was one of 7 and my dad was one of 6.
Oh my God.
Like I had uncles, aunts, and cousins who kind of spanned the 20th century. You know, my grandparents were born in the 20s. My oldest uncles were born in the mid 40s. So like I had like such a buffet of pop culture that people were recommending to me. Like my uncles would watch like Westerns on Turner Classic Movies. My mom and my aunts were watching like old sitcoms that I fell in love with. Like my cousins, you know, came of age in like 80s and 90s and were like, man, you gotta watch this stuff. You gotta watch these movies. You gotta like watch The Simpsons. So like when people are like, how do you have so much, like I have like a lot of pop culture. I'm just like, I have like a huge family and like to connect to these people who were born between the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, the 70s. Like I got familiar with the things that they like, the art that they like, the TV they like, the movies they like, you know. Art is a good way to get close to people. And also, you know, it just really gave me a wide swath of stuff to steal from as well, which is what all artists do, is steal.
You know? I got since you're like me and you like old man movies where old men are just wailing on people, just losing their minds. Have you ever seen the Charles Bronson film? Another one of my favorites, Hard Times.
No, I have seen the movie he made with Toshiro Mifune, Red Sun.
Oh, I mean,
have you seen this
classic
movie?
Brian needs to see it because he loves Kurosawa films and he loves the actor. So he hasn't seen Red Sun.
All right.
Red Sun, you got to watch it with. That's great. But Hard Times is, in my opinion, Charles Bronson's greatest film. It's like, I think he only says 3 words in the whole movie, but he plays a Great Depression, like underground bare knuckle boxer, and he rides the rails. Yeah, and then he goes down to New Orleans and he hooks up with a guy. Do you know the actor James Colburn?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like I think he was in the Western. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyways, James Colburn, he plays this guy named Speed, and of course he's like, you know, businessman. He's setting up the fights, and so they form like he's basically like. He's coming in as like, oh, I'm an inexperienced fighter, like pretending he's a tin can, right? And then they're grifting guys on the underground fight circuit, and then it escalates because, like, you know. Anyways, you should watch it. It's great. It's such a good movie. It's completely underrated. Nobody's seen it except for people that are in their 70s and 80s.
I love that. I'll give you 2 more like dudes being crazy and like fighting dudes movies that are really good.
Okay.
The late great Bob Hoskins, for comic book nerds who are listening to this, was Chris Claremont's inspiration for Wolverine. He thought that Bob Hoskins should play Wolverine.
Love that.
A short, scrappy British actor. And this year I watched 2 of his best films on the Criterion Collection, one of which has my favorite title of all time, The Long Good Friday, where he plays a mafia or kind of like an organized crime like enforcer, and his empire starts to fall apart on this Good Friday. A very young Pierce Brosnan is in it, which is a trip to see. Like we're talking about
interesting.
Like a 25-year-old Pierce Brosnan.
Awesome.
And then the movie I like more that Bob Hoskins did is this movie Mona Lisa, written directed by Neil Jordan, also stars Michael Caine. Michael Caine in like the 80s, where he's particularly like, dude, this man is attractive. This man's got it. You know what I mean? Dude. Like in a way that like I will never have chemistry wise or looks wise. Like this dude just walks on camera and you're like, this fucking guy is amazing.
These young kids don't understand the power of a youthful Michael Caine. They just know him as like
Alfred.
Alfred.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic Alfred, but no, you need to see Michael Caine in any movie from the 60s to the late 90s where you're just like, this guy is enchanting. Like, this guy is casting a spell. I mean, but in Mona Lisa, Bob Hoskins plays a criminal who gets out of prison, and he's tasked with being a driver for a call girl, and he falls in love with the call girl. It's on the surface, it feels very cliche, but like, it's a really wonderful movie, really well done, really great Neil Jordan movie. And Bob Hoskins has these moments where like he'll go from being like a pit bull of a man to being like a very sweet, compelling guy. And like, I don't want to generalize, but like, to see like a guy who looked like Bob Hoskins, like a guy who was like 5'7", going bald, and just looked like a guy who'd been in like real fist fights, be like the lead of a movie. You can't imagine that today, right? Like, there's not enough movies for us to like cast like a Bob Hoskins. And I'm just like, I wish we had like an American or a modern day Bob Hoskins. Like, those
you're
two
right.
movies, I was just like, well, we need a guy like that.
True.
Because the closest you get is like what, a Jason Statham, who's like ridiculously good looking, super ripped, just gorgeous man. Where you're like, wow.
Or even in America, it's like, oh hey, like remember, like people would watch Rocky and be like, that guy's a loser, and it's like, that guy's pretty good looking. He seems like he's doing fine.
Pretty much. Like, there was I forget what it was called. There was an Elvis Presley movie, or well, even in Rocky. Rocky's a great example. You know the guy, Burt Young.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Burt Young was like a real boxer in the army, and then at one point he was like nationally ranked. He was like light heavyweight. Like, he was a real legit boxer, or he was like an army or navy champion, something like that. Yeah. So it's like funny, like, he plays like he would never get the lead role for something like Rocky, but he was the real Rocky. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But on the flip side, like I will say, like one of my favorite actors working today, and like, I don't want to judge you guys' looks. That's not what I'm intending to do, but this guy Paul Walter Hauser, who he played the Mole Man this year in Fantastic Four, and he's
I love that guy
as the Enforcer. He's a phenomenal actor, and like, he seems like he's the guy who's like, he's not like Jason Statham, but he might be like a normal kind of everyday guy who like is gonna like be the lead of some things, and like I find that very encouraging because like he's a terrific actor. He's also like a really soulful, sweet guy. Every time I listen to podcasts with him, like I find him very inspiring. But like, yeah, he's like an actor who can play like a lot of like everyday parts, kind of like Bob Hoskins, and do it reasonably, where you're like, hey, this really famous actor who's 6'2", and like you just cut your hair a little bit to look like you're less handsome than you are. I don't believe you as like the mailman in this movie or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Paul Walter Hauser. He's making a Chris Farley biopic right now, which could go either way.
Sure.
You know he does pro wrestling sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. He really loves it. He's super
he's actually really good at it. Because anytime you see somebody kind of get out of their, I guess, wheelhouse, you're always like, oh, or are they just doing this because they're famous? But
right.
You want to make sure they're being authentic. Yeah.
Yeah. He's really, really good. It's, I'm not a huge like pro wrestling aficionado by any means, but I was really surprised at how good he was. I was like, oh man, like this guy's all about it.
No, but when people really like something, it makes a difference, and you can like tell. Like when people don't really like stuff and they're like just being a tourist, which is fine. We'll treat tourists really well. Like it feels a little not great, but like when someone actively loves something like that, you're like, that's cool. Like liking stuff is cool.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Well, we are starting to go long in the tooth here, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think
we're
it's time
to dive into what we've been reading.
I think it is time for that.
Do it.
Let's do it.
All right. And Dave, since you are the guest of honor, we always let the guest go first and talk about what they've been reading. So what's on the nightstand for you, man? Comics, books, whatever you reading?
I read some stuff today in honor of being here, so I'm very excited. Comic book wise, I read the Absolute Batman Annual by Daniel Warren Johnson that came out this week. That was phenomenal.
Yes.
I think I have worked on a lot of Batman comics. I have read a lot of Batman comics. I think this Batman comic, like it is its own unique thing, and it's quite brilliant. I think this comic is energy wise like maybe the closest to the Dark Knight Returns I've ever read.
Thank you.
Like, there's some stuff that he pulls off in here where I'm like, this is incredible cartooning, like mind blowing stuff. Like Daniel's brilliant. One of those comics around. Comic wise, I also love Jeff Lemire's JSA. with Diego Orleotugi. He's a great artist. From Image Comics, I'm really enjoying. What's the name of the book? See how long they're finding, but I have it right here. I have a whole stack here. Oh, News from the Fallout by Chris Condon. Tremendous.
I'm reading that right now.
How is that? How is
It's
News from the
really-
Fallout? I haven't gotten a hold of it.
It's great. I think it's great. But the thing I really admire, like, it's one of the most experimental mainstream comics I've read in a long time. Like, I find like how impressionistic it is, like really daring, and I'm happy that like the book is getting well reviewed and it's sold out a couple times because like this is a challenging piece of work. Like, they're like Jeffrey Allen loves doing something very brilliant, but like really challenging artistically. And Chris is writing like some really challenging characters. I think it's a great book. I really love it. I work for IDW, as previously mentioned, but I think their Godzilla line right now is pretty tremendous, which is being spearheaded by editor Jake Williams. The main book, Godzilla, written by Tim Seeley and drawn by Nicholas Esmeja, is great. Godzilla Starship is fantastic as well. And then Godzilla, I believe the title of the other series is it Dead Zone? I think it's Godzilla Dead Zone.
I think you're right.
It's by Ethan Parker. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Godzilla Escape the Dead Zone. Griffin Sheridan, by writers Griffin Sheridan, Ethan Parker, and the art is by this guy Pablo Tunica, who is like sensational. Like,
I know Pablo. I know Pablo.
Dude,
Him and I worked
Pablo's
together
phenomenal.
on Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters. That guy is so creative. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then book wise, I have two things I'm working on right now. I'm reading the complete collections of writer Elmore Leonard, who I'm a huge fan of. And then I am also reading a oral history about the TV show The OC, written by TV critic Alan Sepinwall, because I contain multitudes.
Love that. Elmore Leonard, he wrote the characters for the Justified TV show, if I'm correct.
He created Raylan and Gibbons, and he eventually he started in a short story, and then once Justified came out, he expanded Raylan to his own novel. But like, man, like, I think only maybe beaten by Stephen King. I think Stephen King and Elmore Leonard are the American authors who have had the most work adapted into television and film.
Oh wow.
Michael Connelly, she should be up there too.
Mike Connelly's up there as well. Yeah, no, totally fair. But like with Elmore Leonard, you get Shorty, you get Justified, you get so much phenomenal stuff. Like once you look at the list, this is crazy. Yeah, those are things on my desk right now. But I want to say, comics right now are phenomenal. I buy a bunch of comics every week, and I have been a delighted and captivated reader.
Love it. I love that. Yeah, I also read Absolute Batman Annual, and I love that you compared it to The Dark Knight Returns, because my hot take on this comic is I think it will go down as one of the best Batman stories of the last 25 years.
It's really special. Yeah.
It really is. And how crazy is it too that everyone is talking about the Daniel Warren Johnson story, but you also have the second story in there is by James Herron, which is pretty spectacular as well.
So good.
But
do you think it's, I mean, because like it's going straight up viral like a lot, and I think it's just because it resonates so much culturally right now.
Which like right here, insane.
I think you could make an argument, this kind of catapult, like Daniel Warren Johnson, industry wise, well known, right? The man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this would be my hot take, and I don't think it's a hot take at all. I think this catapults him into a whole nother category, because I've seen outlets talking about this that have nothing to do with comics at all.
Sure. Yeah.
And
sure.
I think and they've been mentioning him by name. I think it elevates him to kind of like, we all know he's a superstar, but I think he's like on the precipice of that like Jim Lee, Frank Miller type superstardom. You know what I mean? Where like when Frank Miller became a household name, like people knew who he was that had no interest in comics. Jim Lee's kind of the same level. I think Daniel Warren Johnson is like the next, because we only get one or two of those guys
for
a decade, right? I think this decade that's going to be him.
I think he is the most consequential person who both writes and draws their own material since Frank. I've just been a lot of great creators since, been a lot of great writers, a lot of great artists. Someone who like both writes and draws their own material. Like, I can't think of someone who's had a bigger impact over the last couple of decades since Frank than Daniel has. It's
you've seen, I mean, like I mean, just because maybe it's because I'm an artist, you always can tell who the biggest artists are culturally by their impact. Like, obviously, Jim Lee, everyone was emulating him, like,
Of course.
well into the 2000s.
Oh yeah.
And then when all those when like Sin City got made and all the re-released of all the Frank Miller stuff in the early 2000s as well, all of a sudden you started seeing a lot of people trying to draw like Frank. I guess you could probably put Mignola in that range too with the Hellboy movies.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see it with Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm seeing more people adopt his like organic, like action sporadicness, like letting the, you're just seeing a lot more of like people are paying attention to his stuff and like learning to draw by looking at his work, which that right there is just like, that means that you're the man, you're the guy.
I think the last like, somebody, I can't say who the main person people are drawing right now is like, but like for a couple years, like most younger artists were trying to draw like Sean Murphy. Maybe right now we're trying to more draw like Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez, more clean. Like those guys, like I can see like a lot more kids in the next couple years drawing like Daniel, to your point, and James Herron as well. I think James and Daniel are in a very similar space.
Yeah, I was one of those guys. I was trying so hard for like a year to draw like Sean Murphy, and then like, he used to come to the Kubert School every year and stuff like that. So it was like, why not try and draw like the guy? He would do these amazing demos just right then and there. And it would just blow everybody's mind. Yeah. And then, boy, like you said, what's his name? The guy who does Batman now, Jorge
Jimenez, great guy, great artist.
Stud.
Yeah. I mean, that guy's
loves the Batman run. And honestly, anything he does is just super good.
But you see a lot of people trying to draw like him too. And, like I always sleep on him because I don't read a ton of, I guess, Marvel DC books. But yeah, oh man, that guy's a monster.
So good.
So good.
Yep.
I'm looking at a familiar comic book right now.
You are, and this has got your name in it as well. But it's the TMNT annual this year that I really enjoyed. So Kenny Porter, Michael Shelfer. Yeah, it was really fun, man, and really heartfelt too. And that's one of the things that I love, and I think that this current run of Turtles is doing so well, is just showing the different sides to them. I really loved, like, I thought the Leonardo story about what, like, a specific story that he was up to, really, like, it really hits you. But I really like the Michelangelo one.
Me too.
Of where it shows that he's essentially living a lie, and all of these, how they're so much better together, right, than they are apart. And I thought that this comic did such a great job of showing that in a one issue. I think Jason Aaron really did it really well. And the Juan Ferreira, that might be some of the best turtle work in the past decade. And and they did that in a longer form content, right? But this as a one shot was spectacular. So
glad that you enjoyed it. It was such a joy to put together. And speaking about this and the absolute Batman thing, I love annuals. And honestly, as a writer, I would like to write some annuals. I like the longer page count. I like the novel length story.
Yeah.
Working with Kenny and Michael on that book was a real joy. Kenny wrote the heck out of it. Excuse me, he gave it so much emotion. And Michael is an artist who I only got introduced to recently, and I love his style. It's very reminiscent of guys like Greg Capullo and Chris Picciolo, like very animated in a way that I like a lot. And he's a really hard worker and a good storyteller. And him and Kenny just did a great job. And I'm happy you like the Michelangelo part, because for those who don't know, the annual shows like what the Turtles were doing in their year where they were apart. And the Michelangelo story, he had like a hit action show in Japan, kind of like Super Sentai or Kamen Rider or Ultraman. And Kenny and I are both really big fans of that stuff. So Kenny was like, can we show him like filming an episode of that show? And I was like, we 100% can do that. So I love that part as well. And I'm a big Turtle fan, but I also just love stories about like brothers. And I feel like we really got to dig in and do a great story about brothers. So I was happy with the response that book got this week, especially.
And you got Mateus Santaluco on the cover, he's one of my favorite Turtle artists. So.
And he's criminally underrated, this guy.
Agreed.
He's been doing turtle work that's amazing for like almost a decade plus. And like, I think he's a phenomenal comic book artist.
So good. Yeah. And then for novel wise, I just picked up the newest Witcher book by Andrei Sapkowski. I just slogged through the newest season that dropped on Netflix because I'm such a fan of the character. I really love the books. I'm finally getting into the games now. It took me a long time to get into the games. I just started Witcher 3, but I didn't realize that he had a new book. So immediately after I finished the season 4 of the Netflix show, which I don't know if you've seen, Dave, I did not enjoy.
You can be honest, it's fine.
I did not, and it's not even like I'm not even going to blame Liam Hemsworth. I thought he did the best job that he could, given that if you hadn't had Henry Cavill before it, I think he would have been fine.
Sure.
But here we are. And so
sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
It's under like we have so many people in the internet age who go like, this sucks or this stinks, that like it's underrated when someone is like holding back how they feel, where they're like, it was fine, like, and there's a joy to like people being like polite but also going like, I hated that.
Yeah, listen, I don't like, because I don't like to come out and just like shit on things. You know what I mean?
I respect that. I'm the same way. Yeah.
Because I like things, how hard it is to get made, how hard things are to get made.
Yeah.
But I do, I have major frustration with that show and the way that they have just kind of went away from the source material.
Sure.
And I think when you're making an adaptation, you have to respect the source material, and some of the changes that they made in that show, I can think specifically to like season 2 when you have Yennefer basically try and sacrifice Ciri. She would never ever do that, ever. If you've read any of the books, you would know that that's not something that she would ever do. And like, I understand some things in a book don't necessarily work in a TV show. Totally understand that. But I do think you have to stay with the core of the character and who those people are. And I don't know, like you're a writer, you're an editor. What are your thoughts on like on book adaptations, or gone into movies and films?
So something that really, and I'm not just saying this because I want Tad to like me more as a collaborator, but something that really bothers me about comic book adaptations in particular when they're adapted into TV shows and movies, and I think this is one reason why it's always fun to see them adapted into animation, is because a lot of times these shows will just adapt the storylines and they won't try to also adapt the feeling of the comic book visual. And I don't mean like, I don't need you to do a shot for shot remake of panels. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But like, if you don't try to like somewhat emulate like the colors or the feel of a comic book, like,
yeah,
you're not adapting the full thing.
Right.
Like, and
Right.
like good examples of this are like, obviously the Scott Pilgrim movies are a really high bar for that, right? Like,
yeah,
that feels a lot like the comic book, or
Yeah.
the most extreme version is like a Sin City or something. But there's quite a few TV shows that we've had recently where it's like, yes, you did adapt the narrative, but like, this doesn't feel like the artwork that I read when I read the comic book. Like, it feels like a book report. And like, I feel like if you're not taking the art into consideration when you're adapting a comic book, you were not doing it to the fullest. And the same thing goes for like superhero movies too. Like, obviously, I think one thing we loved about like Thor Ragnarok, someone said, "Oh my God, it looks like Jack Kirby and Walt Simon said." Like,
Right.
we get excited when it feels right, or like, yeah, like in even the more recent Batman movie, the Robert Pattinson one, yeah, like it felt more like modern comic book artists like Lieber Mayhem and folks like that. Like, that costume felt very textured, like a lot of those modern Batman artists. But like, when you just adapt the narrative of a comic and not the work of a comic, I think you're really missing out in a big bad way.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm a big fan of you now. Oh
Yeah.
man.
But anyways, so I picked up this on my Kindle. Well, my iPad serves as my Kindle, but
Yeah.
the newest book, it's Geralt just stepping outside of Kaer Morhen as a Witcher. So it's like him just he basically just graduated Witcher school, right? And so they now send him out to make his way. So I'm only 50 pages in, but I'm a huge fan of The Witcher. Love the
That's
books.
rad.
So anytime we get new stuff, I'm going to be all over it. So
Nice.
Tad,
Love it.
what's up?
I said, I
Well,
love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What about you, Tad? What are you on while I adjust my camera?
Okay. I read finally All-Star Superman. I'm not going to tell you how I acquired the book. I may have permanently borrowed it from a certain museum that I sometimes work for.
Mm-hmm.
Just joking. No, I got it. They have a section for donated books.
Yeah.
And it was just in there. So I was like, I'm going to get this. I've never read it.
Did you know that? Remember those huge boxes of comics that I got?
Yeah.
That a coworker gave to me. I got all the issues of that.
Oh, nice.
I was pretty stoked.
You got to hang on to those.
Oh yeah.
Beautifully designed issues, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not normally a big Superman guy.
This is true.
Which is weird because I'm a big Captain America guy. Yes. But I think I like Cap because it's more of I like World War II lore. I love the whole like World War II, like Manhattan Project, all that kind of stuff. So like, I don't know. I tend to be kind of a realist. And when it comes to comics, I have a hard time suspending my disbelief. Mm-hmm. So like Cap like fits that, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, of course they would try and do that at that time.
Right.
But man, it had so much heart. Like I knew Superman was quirky, like the old comics. I feel like it captured all that, but it didn't. But it wasn't like it made sense. And like my favorite issue was when Clark Kent is interviewing what's his name, Lex Luthor in prison. Yep. To me, that was like maybe one of the best written comics. Like the fact that he saves Luthor's life twice from electrocuting and getting shot in the head. And it just showed it was such a great example of Luthor as like his arrogance. He's the smartest guy, but like he's so flawed in the fact that he doesn't even realize his own demise. And if it weren't for Superman being there, you know, he wouldn't exist. He would have failed a long time ago. Much worse, just as a human being. And I don't know, it was just so well done. And I don't know, I don't get that fired up over certain books that often anymore.
No, you called me immediately. We're like, dude, I just read it. It's fucking great. Like you like went off on a tangent about it.
Yeah, favorite comic ever, all time.
And I got if I had to put it like easily would fit in my top 10. It was that good. And like I always like Quietly and Grant Morrison. Like I love We Three. I think that's just like one of the best miniseries of all time. And
you're good. We got you. Can
you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, my headphones just went out. Sorry. Yeah, anyways, it was amazing. That's what I read.
It's such a great book. It's such a great book. I reread it like once every year, every 2 years. I read it this year again because of the movie coming up. And you know, the first couple issues are great, but like it's a book that gets better with each issue because their craft gets more confident. Like, you know, that sounds crazy to say about two of the most like impressive comic book creators we have. But for me right now, my favorite part of that comic is the Bizarro World two-parter, which as a kid, I did not like very much. But as an adult, I find like such a beautiful metaphor for depression. And the story of Zabaro is so heartbreaking and just a magnificent comic book.
Are you still talking about All-Star Superman?
Yeah. I was talking about the Bizarro World issues. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really weirded out by Bizarro. Like I never really got it. And this made it just make so much sense. It just made so sense. And then like, I don't know, even like his relationship with Lois Lane and stuff, you know, like I always felt like because I didn't take the time to read much Superman, really the only Superman I ever read really was Death of Superman back in the 90s, right?
Sure.
Because that was such a
8 million others. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like, that's what you did. You know, that was like a cultural rite of passage, it seemed like at the time as a kid. And so I never really, you know, the Lois Lane thing I was never really into, but man, this just made it gave it so much depth and heart. Or like the death of Jonathan Kent issue in this was, man, it was so heavy.
I think most people would say that the Jonathan Kent issue is the best issue of that book, which is hard to argue with.
Yeah, it was just everything about it was so well done. And yeah, like I said, I normally am not a big Like even Jimmy Olsen, I never could get into Jimmy Olsen. This made me a huge Jimmy Olsen fan. I kind of want to go and read all of everything Steve Lieber's done on the Jimmy Olsen series.
Book rules, dude. That book is fantastic.
I picked that up at Rose City.
Yeah. Something that I think is important to note about All-Star Superman, it comes out between 2005 and 2008, which for superhero comics and pop culture is such a like self-aware, winking in itself time. Like we're on the precipice of the MCU starting with Iron Man in that tone. Superman, All-Star Superman has no irony. It's so earnest and straightforward.
Yeah.
There's nothing ironic, winky, or making fun of itself about this book, which for this era is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, because this is kind of the era where like you're coming off of like the Ultimates, where the whole thing was like we're taking the cheese out and we're making this like what if Avengers really existed? You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And I really feel like superheroes were trying to be molded into that kind of like pre-movie category. And
the cheese that was there was going to burn you because it was a little too hot.
Yeah.
Little mean.
Yeah, I mean,
cheese.
It was like a perfect comic. You know what I mean? Like, is that crazy to say? Is that my hot take?
People have been saying it now for almost 20 years, so I don't think it's crazy.
Good. Yeah, no, I was more upset with myself that I'm one of those people where if everyone tells me to read something or that I'll like something, I typically am like, yeah, I'll get to it. And I'm never probably going to get to it.
You're like a teenage child is what you're saying.
I am like a teenage child. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
I am like a teenage child.
That's fair.
And this was like one of the few instances where I was like, damn it, I should have listened to everybody.
Again, like a teenage child who won't listen to their parents. Ask me where I know this from.
Where do you know this from?
Because I have children. One of them is a teenager.
Well, I guess you got another one.
Yeah, no. Well aware.
Wow. Yeah, but look at that Supergirl.
That Supergirl is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next week we're gonna have to figure out what she's punching.
I think I already know who it is.
It's gonna be Lobo. No big surprise. It's gonna be Lobo.
Yeah. Hell yeah, it is.
I don't think pop culture is ready for like when that first Supergirl trailer hits and they include the scene of Momoa as Lobo and they immediately greenlit the Lobo Momoa movie. Like we're gonna have like a lot of Lobo next year, guys.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it too.
Was I a little jealous of Jorge Corona when they announced his name doing the new Lobo series? Yes, definitely. But I was also like, oh, good for you. Good.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that Lobo series. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to crush, dude.
I'll be picking it up for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's all I read. I just read the I would say I also read the Batman Absolute Annual, but I feel like we've all gushed it over that enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Listen. Well, you did have a comment on the Absolute Batman issue and his no-kill rule.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Everyone's saying Batman doesn't kill. Here's a real hot take. Batman kills everyone in that. No one's surviving. Like, just because they bled out an hour later or like died of infections from their burns, they're all dead. Like,
certainly tough to argue with you. Usually I have an argument to protect Batman, but this time I'm like, whoa.
It's not they're not people, so they don't count against the no-kill rule. So,
I mean, you guys know who Brian Bunyak is?
No.
He used to teach at the Kuber School, but he was he did like Mad Magazine, Crack Magazine. He did Angel and the Ape for DC way back. He had a rule. Like his whole saying was like Nazis, robots, and monsters. You can kill away. The comics code doesn't care. You can go nuts. So as long as it's one of the three.
That's why Breaking Bad, like Walter White is so terrible at the end of Breaking Bad. The only thing left that is worse than him is Nazis.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why he has to fight Nazis at the end because like no one else at that point is worse than Walter White.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So, all right, Tad, why don't I take us home?
Take us home, big man.
All right, Tiger Cubs, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want more, like, subscribe on our YouTube page, or find us at the home of Blue Tiger Revenge, and that is at our Substack, bluetigerrevenge.substack.com, where all you got to do is hit that subscribe button. Every time we post a new episode, it comes straight to your inbox. We do all the hard work, so you don't have to.
Ooh,
you like
I
that, right?
like that. That was
Thank you.
nice.
Thank you. Well, it's a lot easier when you're not dangling a giant fucking cat in front of the camera distracting me, and now he's going to go get the cat. But and then want to thank our guest, Dave Wielgosz. Thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Where can folks find you?
Thank you guys for having me. You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Dave Wielgosz, and then every week I post a new newsletter at theweeklyupdave.beehive, beehiiv.com. I'll send you guys a link to include. And yeah, those are the main places I am. I don't live too many places on the internet these days other than those spots.
Excellent. And that is all I have, Tad. Do you have anything else?
I do. This will come out this coming Monday. So this coming weekend, if you happen to be in the greater Anchorage area, I will be at the Anchorage Zine Fair only for a few hours. I'll be selling some comics. I'll have, I think, all of the current copies of The First Americans, which is being released quarterly. And then I will have some Narpig zines. Yeah, back in print. Who would have thought? So
Hell yeah.
Come get them. I believe doors open at 11 and close at 5. So it's not very long, but come on, I'll be there. Come hang out. And I got one Dave.
Yes.
When our book gets announced, we're going to do some cross promotion. We're going to get you back maybe next year.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to come back. Even if we do I want to say how long it is, but even if we do a chapter by chapter breakdown or something, I would do it.
I'm down.
Okay.
I'm down.
Yeah,
Dave,
I'm all about promoting
before we drop off. Dave, are you a convention guy? You got any conventions, anything like that, where you're going to be at that are coming up?
I am not going to be doing anything for the rest of 2025, but I have put in my application to go to the Emerald City Comic Con in March, and we should be hearing back soon from them to do that. So you might be seeing me early in March of 2026 at Emerald City Comic Con.
We'll have to do a live something because we should be there as well. I live an hour south of there, so.
Whoa, okay. That would be
Hell
fun.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Dave, yeah, I was gonna say also, how long you're staying in Seattle, we should all go get dinner or something, do something fun.
Oh man, yeah, I'll be there the whole weekend probably if they accept me, which I hope they do because I desperately want their approval. So yeah, I would get dinner with you guys in a heartbeat.
Perfect.
All right. Sweet.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, Tad, what time is it?
Hit the music.